Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 128 of FPL BlackBox ahead of Game Week 22. There's me, as always, and I'm joined by someone who isn't Mr. Mark Southerns today, but a adequate replacement in Mr. Mode.
Do you know what? You're so lovely to me, aren't you? Adequate. That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Thank you very much for having me. I mean, we've waited months to finally get rid of the old man, haven't we? And finally the two youngsters are on. So looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, we haven't done one just the two of us in a while, because obviously you're partnered up with Mark on the late tackle, and the members videos I never really got involved with Scout. I can't even remember the last video we did together, just you and I.
I think there must have been one not that long ago. Obviously, we've streamed with each other a couple of times this year, which is more than we did last year. But yeah, it's the first one with both of us. So it's quite nice. Are you getting ready to drop into some FPL mode?
My favourite thing. We've already got the bingo card of no Markham out of here. Thank you, Sockhan 1. Excellent. Do you know what? It's been a weird game week, but I'm ready to get into FPL mode.
Good,
I really am. I am getting stuck in because it's getting a bit weird. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, isn't there? I mean, I called the episode "Risky Business" because I think a lot of people's transfers they make are going to come with an element of risk this week. Whether you go for Haaland, whether you go for De Bruyne, but even if you're going for Liverpool players or Spurs players or Chelsea players, if you still haven't got Palmer, like. It all comes with an element of risk because we've got these blanks coming up, we've got injuries, and like Salah, we don't really know what we're going to do, so we're going to put all our money and not be able to get him back. So it's an interesting period of the season, isn't it?
I love this time of the season because the double game weeks and blank game weeks make the planners obviously come out smelling of roses usually. So if you can plan and you know when the double game weeks and blank game weeks might be, it massively helps you. And obviously, this is where you're hoping to kind of steal a beat on the people that maybe don't plan at all. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm going to be honest, I just hope that we get to a point where we're going to be able to make some decisions again. Yeah. It's felt like an awfully long time since we've done anything to our teams, because obviously we had the winter break, so it's spread across 2 weeks. We now don't have a deadline till next Tuesday. So it's been interesting, to say the least. Obviously, I'm on a red, you're on a green. But it's, I'm just looking forward to... I know, you're catching me up. Let's say about that a little bit.
I don't know about that, but...
I'm looking forward to finally making some decisions this week. And I know that we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight, I would have thought.
We are, absolutely. And hello to everyone in the chat. Lots of hellos. Lewis watching from Hayward, California. Very nice. We got Gareth Pashley in the chat. Do get involved. Drop us some questions. We can answer some kind of as we go. We do have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of players to kind of get your thoughts on as we go, and obviously the scheduling and things. And you mentioned about decisions, captains as well. I mean, it's a shame that it's been such an elongated period with Haaland out because the captain decisions have been really interesting. And I think they are again this week.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, not just captaincy decisions coming up, but potential triple captaincy decisions as well, which might have been made a little bit easier with Haaland potentially being back for the double game week. But with Salah out, obviously, I think that kind of makes a few little decisions we've got to make as well. So, yeah, it is. Like I said, this is the exciting time of the year. People get excited about Christmas, but now the double game week's coming in. This is when it gets really exciting.
Absolutely. Yep, this is our Christmas, our FPL Christmas.
Exactly.
That's it.
It's so sad, aren't we?
It's so bad.
This is our Christmas.
Oh, dear. Let's talk about that the better. Just a shout out to some of our new members on the BlackBox YouTube channel. We've got Tricky FPL, we've got Hesmo, we've got Ankit renewing as well, and Rakesh too. If you're not involved, do check out the subscription tiers on the channel. If you go for the top league, you get access to the prediction league. We're going to be doing a black box meetup at some point as well that you can get involved in, Andy, if you sign up to the black box. If you sign up to the Godfather tier. So that's the top. There's loads of other stuff like they can get you to the leagues, where prizes for all that as well. If you want to sign up to any of the other tiers as well, you get access to our ever-growing Discord channel too, which we're having lots of good conversations in. And it's just a really good way to engage with other FPL managers. Discord is very good because you've got all the different kind of areas where you can talk about all different things, which we're trying to sort of move a little bit away from WhatsApp into Discord. So do check that out if you haven't already. Right, let's focus on last game week. Then obviously it was a long game week, but I've got something good to talk about for once, so I'm going to go for this as long as possible. Yeah, it was a good week. Good week for me. 74 points, but I took a -8. And when you take a -8, you are not expecting a green arrow. Let's be honest.
Fair play.
You,
Look at that back line.
I know. Yeah, you think you're in for a bad week. I had to do it. You know, we spoke last time I was on with you and Mark. We talked about my wild cards and whether that was, you know, kind of the right move. In the end, I just held off to not do it. So yeah, so it was a -8. Oh, Andy's gone. Can't even bear to see me having a good week. So he's disappeared. I think he's disconnected. Let's hope that I'm still going. Can anyone still hear me? It's not my internet, is it? Nah, I think it's Andy. That's fine. I just carry on talking about my week. Yeah, good for my back line. 9 from Martinez, 6 from Porro, 17 from Gabriel, and 8 from Estupinan, who was one of my 3 transfers in this week. Foden, Garnacho, both blanking. I bought in Garnacho this week, mostly just because I needed the money to think about how I'd get Haaland a bit later on. Saka with the 6, Palmer with the 10, Pedro with 2, Watkins with 1, and the mighty Darwin Núñez finally coming in with a massive 11 points. Andy, I can hear you. Are you back? Where'd you go?
I'm back. Is my camera back?
Your camera's not back.
No, I have tried to make it come back, so I will load it up again, which is weird. But yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. Everything dropped.
See, I get blamed for all the technical issues we have on BlackBox. I'm taking no responsibility. As soon as you went, I was like, it's me. My internet's gone or something. But I don't think it's me. It's me this time.
There you go. Well, my camera should be back. It's on Video Ninja. So
your camera is definitely not back.
Oh, lovely stuff.
I can. Okay. I'm going to send you a new link.
Oh, thank you very much.
Definitely put the right one in.
Yeah.
Good.
Lovely stuff.
So everyone
gives you a little bit of chance to talk about your team for a bit longer, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I've kind of covered it now. I think everyone's sick of looking at it. I've just sent you a new link. Maybe you just want to put that one in.
Lovely.
And I'll just change that on my end. So everyone's give me 2 seconds. Yeah. I mean, it is nice to have a green arrow with a red. Green arrow with a -8. And I wasn't expecting, especially with a captain blank as well. Right, let me just change your thing here. This is what the people want, Andy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is what they're after.
We're just giving them what they want.
There you go. Try it now.
Okay, I'm going to put that in there. There you go. There you go. He's back.
I'm ruining your perfect record.
It's typical, isn't it? But at least it's not my fault for a change.
Sorry, lads.
Yeah. What do you think? Go on. You give me the rundown. What do you reckon on that? What do you reckon on the -8 for all? Do you think I should have wildcarded?
To be fair, yeah, -8. No, I mean we said it, didn't we? Like I didn't think you ought to wildcard because I think you're going to regret that later on. I think Martinez finally coming through for you was massive with 9 points, and obviously Gabriel's the one, isn't it? Like Gabriel and Saliba getting at 6, Gabriel getting 17 is absolutely massive. The biggest thing for you is the captaincy blank. Really, you could have had an absolutely massive week. I say massive, like it would have been extra. You would have been in the 80s probably. Yeah. But Darwin coming through as well. It's all these players that have not really performed for you or brought you back in the points you wanted.
I know.
And obviously, you know, Martinez, Gabriel and Darwin doing well for you there and you know, combining for 37 points is absolutely huge. But also, and credit to you, and I was going to tweet this, but I forgot to, you did say on the last Black Box when we were on here together about Brighton and that you thought clean sheets were coming. They've kept 2 since you said that. And obviously Estepinan's there with
2
8 points.
0-0s as well. Who would have thought that?
Yeah. So fair play to you. But yeah, no, you just had one of those weeks, didn't you? It was lovely.
Well, I think, you know, what you just said is bang on. 3 players that would not have made the wildcard draft at all would have been Gabriel, Martinez and Darwin. And they all return big hauls. Because I think I probably would have gone for Raya in goal.
Yeah.
Gabriel always gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit because I always wonder if he's going to start or not. Yeah. And yeah, Darwin's just not been great. So they all would have gone, and yeah, it would have been a disaster. The captaincy was annoying, which leads me nicely onto your team, where you've got the captaincy spot on. Not much else went right, but the captaincy.
the back line was okay. So I'm assuming this is going out on a pod, so I'll talk through it all. So I had Areola in goal with 3. Saliba got me 6, which in any other week would have been quite good, but obviously Gabriel got 17. Estupinan with 8. So I took a hit this week. I took out Trent and brought in Estupinan.
Ooh.
Now, Now that doesn't look quite so good, but at the time it didn't seem too bad because I kept Salah. I thought I saw someone say the other day, "Oh, you should have waited for information." That was deadline. Like I waited till deadline. Porro got 6, Richarlison got 8. Like I did all right on a majority of this. Palmer got me 20 as my captain. Saka got 3, Foden 2, and then the front line was awful. 2, 2, and 1 from Alvarez, Solanke, and Watkins. So it wasn't actually a bad week. It was literally just the Gabriel haul that saw me get a red arrow because I was on a hit as well. So actually, I thought it was an all right week. I think my team set up fairly well. It's just moving forward, which I know we're going to talk about tonight. Got some very interesting decisions to make.
See, I think if you'd gone Saka over Palmer, I think you'd be moaning a bad week. Yeah, because I mean, it's not awful, but you take away the captaincy. You had Richarlison and Estupiñán. They're the only ones that are like a little bit different. Everyone's got Palmer, everyone's got Porro, everyone's kind of got an Arsenal defender anyway.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, there are 2 highly owned Arsenal defenders. Saliba's one of them, Gabriel's the other. And Saliba's higher owned than Gabriel. And Gabriel outscores him by 11 points. Just as well that wasn't a goal, by the way, that it was an assist, not a goal.
Oh, I still think he was robbed.
Watkins is a dead spot. So actually, I do agree with you in terms of they're kind of highly owned, the rest of the players. But, captaincy was right, which I think... It's literally just the Gabriel thing. I think I would have been on a nice green, not a massive one, but a nice green.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Richarlison's quite big actually. To be fair, like ownership wise, he's not massive. I mean, you wouldn't have gone for him, would you, on a wild card? So yeah, it feels all right. It could have been a lot worse considering.
Oh, my team, my wild card team would have been a disaster, and a lot of people called that on the stream because I would have had
yes, 2 people in particular.
I would have Gross and Pedro. I didn't have Jota or Richarlison or Darwin or so yeah, it would work. I'm kicking myself about the Palmer captaincy because I do think I disregarded Palmer because he was playing early. I will hold my hands up to that. I didn't want to captain the early transfer, and you fought through that and went for it, and yeah, fair play.
I listened. So on a Saturday, right, I do the hoovering and listen to the match on my headphones basically, and I was listening. I was like, oh my god, this is so tight. Like it was 0-0, and then obviously he got the pen, but he was so involved, like constantly involved. So many key passes. He's so central to everything. And I can't remember the last time I listened to an Arsenal game and thought Saka's so involved. He's integral to everything. And I just thought I'm just going to go with Palmer. And I know a lot of people said, I missed his haul last week because
he's paid you back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like he's paid me back a little bit with the Saka blank. So, and everybody, the great and the good, went Saka, apart from me and Guns. So I'll take that.
Do you know what? I was really surprised at that because I hadn't really been paying too much attention to the captaincy, and I thought it was going to be quite split between Palmer, between Saka. I was looking at Pedro. I think the team I sent you before the deadline, I had Pedro captain. I was really tempted to go for that. And then in the end, I just looked. It just came down to stats. I looked at Palace and they had the worst defensive stats. I looked at Saka and he had the best attacking stats, and that's literally it. And when I saw that just everyone had gone for Saka, I was really surprised because I thought it'd be more split. But yeah,
EO wise it was. Yeah. EO they were both about between 120 and 130.
That's it.
Whereas like I said, in the kind of engaged leagues,
it's a lot lower for Palmer.
Saka was everywhere.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I was surprised at that. Mark had a decent week. He scored the same as me after the hit. He bought in Doty for Trent, which is interesting because now I reckon he's wishing he did the Salah out move. Obviously, he's prioritising selling players with injuries and building up value on others. So I imagine Salah's going to be out for him this week. But Dubravka in goal. He had Gabriel, Porro, and Doty got the assist. I mean, if you cast your mind back to when that game was, still think that was a foul.
When was that? 2023?
It feels like it, doesn't it? The little push on the goalkeeper that they let happen. God, that really was a bloody long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Bailey with 3, Saka with the blank as captain with 6, Palmer and Foden. I mean, basically, we've all got very similar teams, and Marcus is a kind of mashup of ours two. He's got my Darwin and your Solanke, and then Watkins. my beautiful Darwin. So yeah, another good week for Mark. He's doing well. Have you checked out this FPL Optimized thing that's been going on? It's all the rage on Twitter. at the moment?
No.
Have you seen this?
Oh yes,
seen
I have
these?
seen those. I haven't done it, but yeah.
Okay, well, I've done it for you, so you're going to see.
Oh no.
So what these are, if you haven't checked out FPL Optimized, head over there. They give you some kind of great stats and things about your season so far, who your top players are, how you fare against kind of other top managers and things. And I think what's really taken Twitter by storm this week, I refuse to call it X, it's still Twitter, is the predicted and realised performance. So what you'll see here is basically a graph which with a kind of a y-axis of 0, and that refers to kind of the average score from the sample that we're looking at. I think this is from maybe from the top 1,000 managers, or kind of the elite 1,000 managers, or something like that. And basically you have a predicted line which kind of goes off from the 0, which is where the season starts. And that is using, I believe it's using FPL Review's tool of predicted points. So if your line is kind of under, like mine is, you're basically making, in theory, worse decisions in a way than the kind of the 1,000 engaged managers. What is the most interesting, though, is the difference between obviously your predicted points and your realised and your actual points. And what this graph basically shows is that I'm predicted to be doing pretty badly and be doing worse than the 1,000 engaged managers, but I've been punished in the most severe way possible because my realised line is way below what it should be. I believe it's minus 70 or something like that, 75.
More than that. Oh, now, yes.
Yes.
About 85. Yeah.
It was bad at one point. It was nearly 100 worse, but now it's around 70, I think. Worse than the predicted. So, yeah, bad decisions and incredibly bad outcomes for me.
You did have a little bit of an uptick when you use your bench boost, mate. So just use that every week. You'll be fine.
There's a slight rise there and then immediately back down again during that, which is interesting. Now let's take a look at marks, shall we?
Oh God, here we go.
Now look at this. And if you can't see this because you're listening on the pods, what this chart shows is that Mark is making sort of predicted, his moves are kind of in and around the average, the predicted points are in and around what the top 1,000 are doing, but the realised points are miles higher.
Christ.
He's like 25 points, I think, higher than he should be at this stage, and that's the luck element, isn't it?
You are literally direct opposites, aren't you?
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how your seasons can have such different things. And what's interesting about our charts, I know Mark's got this little dip kind of between Game Week 2 and 3 when everything was going wrong for him, and then it's been on the upward trajectory from there. But you know, it's the complete opposite of mine. Now look at yours. Yours is all over the place. Like ours are at least consistent.
Yeah, I know. I had a really bad start, sorry. I had quite a bad start, not as bad as I've seen from some people. And then obviously I've kind of petered off. And I think it was after the wild card. Yeah, I kind of just steadily climbed after the wild card. And then recently I benched Palmer and obviously didn't have Gabriel this week. So I have kind of gone down a little bit this week. But I take that. I think I'm making good decisions based on that. If you look at the predicted.
According to this, you're making kind of the best decisions of the three of us. And at one point your luck was in because you're making good decisions in and around Game Week 17 to 20. You're making good decisions and you're getting maximum reward. And then boom, back down to reality. Over the last two.
You're so kind to me tonight. I'm adequate. I'm making the best decisions out of the three of us. This is lovely.
Yeah, don't get used to it. For anyone asking what this app is, I see Tahir's asking what the app. Just type FPL Optimized into Google, and then you put your team ID in, and you can see yours. But I did think this was interesting. The three of us, like the difference in seasons, the three of us are having.
Well, if you then look at the Great and the Good League. Mark's top, I'm in the middle, you're right at the bottom. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
And yes, Blor, absolutely. If you do worse than predicted, you're unlucky. If you do better, you're skillful. Of course, that's FPL Analytics in a nutshell, isn't it? Don't come for me. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. So that's that. Great tool. Check that out. Great in the good standings. We can look at this as well. Again, a bit of a mixed week for all of us who are involved in this. Ben Krellin is top of this, and Old Slippers having a good season in second. We mentioned the Saka captaincy. Look at that, right across the board. You're the only Palmer captainer, which I find crazy because I was so 50-50. Well, kind of 33 between Palmer, Saka, and Pedro. FPL Guns going for Martinelli. God. I mean, where does that rank on the bloody optimised chart? Doesn't even start and gets 2 goals.
It's right there with the KDB owners, I reckon.
But massive rank increase for him, 690k. I mean, I had the second biggest rank rise of 310 with a -8. So again, really happy with that. Finsley took a -8 and he went down 55k. And obviously he only got 52 points after the hit, so he'll be a bit upset. But yeah, Finn's one of the best players we've got, and he's doing. I mean, everyone's doing kind of all right in this now. We've got a lot of people in the kind of top 100k. He's around the kind of 200k mark. I really need to pull my socks up, because if I'm going to get anywhere near, I need to. I'm already getting cast adrift, so I need to catch up a bit. But yeah, I mean, how are you feeling at this stage of the season? 150k. You've had a bit of a drop in the last few weeks, but feeling confident?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a bit of a drop. I always said that if I was around 100k by the time the double game weeks start rolling around, then I'd be quite happy, because I feel like I would be confident that I'm going to have a little bit of a rise through that period, hopefully. I've taken 2 hits in the last 3 weeks, I think it is, which I don't usually do either. But they're hits that have, meant that I've had more points out of it than I would have done if I hadn't taken the hit. So, yeah, it's okay. Like you said, bit of a dip this week and last week. But 150k, I think you take that. Halfway, just over halfway through the season. I think it's all right.
I'd take it. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So before we get into the stats, let's just take a little bit look at the landscape kind of over the next few weeks. So something we like to use here is the transfer algorithm. Obviously, we've got the fixture ticker that we take from Scout as well. Lagan Manet has a great tool for that. Obviously, you've got Ben Crellin's one as well. But the transfer algorithm's quite cool, because it effectively creates a kind of a probability of fixtures and when they're going to be played over the coming weeks. So you can see Brentford and Man City. We've obviously got that double game week confirmed now, so that's represented by the 2. And there is a chance for Luton and Liverpool to have their double in 25, which actually is looking more and more likely as the kind of weeks go on. What is then interesting, of course, is then you go straight into a blank game week in 26, where Luton and Liverpool are almost certain to kind of have a blank in that, based on the result tonight. Liverpool are tonight, aren't they, against Fulham? So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, Chelsea played last night, but that was...
And Chelsea are through. So this hasn't been updated. We know that Chelsea Spurs is going to be a blank because of the final. We then got like a slight chance of some kind of matches in 27 and 28, but extra matches, but probably quite unlikely. And then we've got this huge blank game week in 29, which people really need to start kind of prepping for. And it's why Tony, for example, is popular, because he's got the double in 25 and he's got a definite game in 29 as well. So the fact he scored the goal, the fact he's back, just makes him a kind of a top target, even though that double in 25 isn't too great. We talked about this in quite a lot of detail in the last pod, so do check out the last one if you haven't already. But yeah, has your transfer plans changed at all over the last few days?
I mean, keeping Salah it just feels like a massive thing now, in terms of the fact he's injured. So before deadline, it was Trent was injured and Salah could be back earlier because Egypt didn't start the best. Now all of a sudden Salah's injured and Trent could be back for the next game. It's completely switched, which is why these 2-week deadlines can be such a pain in the bottom, basically. But yeah, I don't think my transfers have changed too much. The only thing I will say is I'm kind of edging towards I'm quite happy people are jumping on players like Jota, because I'm just looking and thinking those fixtures aren't that kind in 23 and 24. Not in 23, in 22 and 23. Yes, they've got Burnley, but then if Salah is back for the double, then Jota's obviously going to be a little bit at risk unless he plays himself into 100% starting. And then they've got the blank in 26, then 27 and 28, and then the potential blank in 29. I'm just thinking, if you don't have a lot of Liverpool at the moment, do you really go full on them, with the double in 25? And then all I keep thinking is free hit 25 the best play? Like, just avoid Liverpool all around the double, because they've got 2 blanks in, the next 7 weeks, whatever it is. And kind of just free hit in 25 and just concentrate on getting City players, for instance. So, yeah, there's lots of kind of thoughts going through my head at the moment. But I know we're going to probably talk about Liverpool in a minute, aren't we?
We are, yeah. And I mean, it's a key period, I think, over the next kind of 7 weeks. And I think, transfers are always important and making the moves that you want to do. But it feels like, you've got the 25 double, and then if you're stacked up with Liverpool, Spurs and Chelsea players, which a lot of us are. I mean, like if you've got Doherty on the bench and Kabore like I do too, these are players who you would want to come in, but obviously can't because they've got the blank. So your transfers do have to be quite thought out. I mean, for example, this week I'm really looking at Richarlison because I think playing up front and all looking good. But then I'm like, well, okay, it's a decent run for him, but then it's 2 blanks in 4 weeks, come 26 and 29. I've already got Palmer, Darwin, I've still got Trent, I've got Porro as well, I've got Kabore. Like, it leaves me with a lot of issues. Yeah. So trying to work out, well, if I go for Richarlison for the 4, what's my exit route for some of these players to bring in? And it's not really that easy. So it's a time when squads are going to be tested. And yeah, I think it's, if you can save a transfer, basically, I'm seeing a lot of teams with really good benches, for example. Yeah, it might be worth just saving the transfer, just because every week we're going to be getting a bit more information and knowing a bit more.
And I just wonder as well whether moving for these Liverpool players now doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Considering they've got Chelsea and Arsenal the next 2 fixtures. Yes, they've got Burnley in 24, which could be the time to do it if you want to do it. But I'm just wondering, like, for instance, I've got Salah and no other Liverpool now. I'm just wondering whether moving Salah out and getting somebody else in, like somebody... if you haven't got a Foden, obviously I think Foden would be the move. But I just wonder whether moving to somebody else and then having those players in 26 is a better play. And then, I don't know, I really am toying with free hitting in 25. Yeah. I do wonder whether free hit in 25 could potentially be the play. I know in 34 and 37, we've got different fixtures. So, free hit could be a play there as well. But I'm just looking at 25 and thinking, that's when you load up on your Liverpool and your City, and then you don't have to worry about 26. Everybody else is having to, save a transfer to use it in 27 and get the Liverpool players back, whatever it is. I'm just wondering whether you just avoid them up till 25 and get them for the free hit.
I guess the thing is, if you've got Trent or Salah already, and then you've got, say, Foden, and then a route back into Haaland, you've got a lot of the key men covered, right? Apart from, you might want to add a Tony to that or add a Jota. I guess you want to add another City mid, but you've kind of got the weeks to build to that now. Yeah. But I can see, but then you'll say, well, you just forget about that. Target the players with good fixtures on the other side of it, and then just go in. No, I do get it. The free hit's going to be interesting because we're going to see some played in 25. We're going to see a lot played in 29 because people are going to get to that period and be like, oh shit, I've got no players. And actually, if we come over to Ben Krellin's a brilliant chart. I mean, he's predicting 5 blank fixtures in this, and I mean, obviously, do follow Ben Crellin. He's kind of the legend that is kind of the best overseer for all of this kind of stuff. But if you look at these probabilities, Everton to Liverpool, Brighton, Man City, these are like, looking at the bookies' ratings, these are like nearly 90% likely to be blanks. So your Haalands, your De Bruynes, your Walkers, your Fodens, your Darwins, your Jotas, all going to be out. And even me with Brighton, I mean, with Pedro, with Estupiñán as well. One that's really interesting game in the FA Cup 4th round is Chelsea versus Villa, because the loser of that game, Ben says, generates a non-blank essentially. So if Chelsea lose and get knocked out of the cup, their game with Arsenal will go ahead because Arsenal will still Arsenal are out and Chelsea will be out as well. And the same with Villa. If they go out, then their game with West Ham would go ahead. So that's a really key game. And then it's important to remember that the winners would then need to win again in round 5 to cause a blank in 29. So it's not just looking at who's going through in round 4. You've also got to look at who's going to go around in round 5 as well. So this is where Ben thinks so far ahead and gets these odds and things. It's great. But I mean, with 5 blanks as well, and a lot of them are key teams that we're going to be highly invested in. It's going to be an interesting game with that one.
And it's really funny as well in terms of, a lot, like you said, a lot of people got Tony in. Obviously, he scored a goal this week because he doesn't blank in 26 and he doesn't blank in 29. And because he's got the double, obviously. But at the same time, the fixtures are horrendous.
They are awful.
So you think, it's kind of doing that balance of which players do actually have the fixtures, but also have nice fixtures. Because you can see here, you've just brought up the fixture ticker. Brentford are 3rd from bottom for their fixtures. So, and they've already played one of them. So that's from 21, isn't it? So they would comfortably be bottom, I would have thought, if you take out that Nottingham Forest at home fixture. So, I'm looking at someone like Tony and thinking, yes, he's got the double, and yes, he's got the fixtures, but I'm just wondering whether he's still in a void for me.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs, I think he could get something against Spurs, but then you're going into Man City, Wolves away. I mean, that's not an easy place to go anymore. And then the worst possible double that it could be. I guess it's coming at a time when we're looking at like Watkins and we're looking at Alvarez, and these are players who can kind of make way, we think, because they're not really performing that strongly. But I mean, if Haaland, makes an appearance, I'm guessing off the bench is probably his most likely chance against Spurs. But if that happens, Tony's going to be forgotten, isn't he? Because everyone's going to be clambering around to get Haaland back. So, yeah, interesting times ahead. We'll talk about some of the players we're targeting, kind of as we go. Fast Air is very confident in Tony. He'll score every game. I mean, I was talking to Sam about this earlier on the Q&A. I said to her, how many goals you reckon Tony gets between now and the end of the season? And she said, well, he could conceivably get 10 to 12.
Yeah, I was going to say 10.
He's going to do that, then he's scoring, a goal, over a goal a game. No, not over a goal a game. How many games are left? A goal every 2 games, sorry. For that price would be good. Then you chuck in a couple of assists as well. Be a good return. I reckon he'll get 10. He should get 10 goals, which you would think would make him a good pick.
I just don't know how many he's going to get against Spurs away, Man City at home, Liverpool at home. Yeah, that's the thing.
He's just one of those players, though. Look, he doesn't need, if he's on free kicks as well and pens.
Yeah, but is he going to be allowed to move that ball every time for a free kick now? They're going to be watching him like a hawk now, aren't they?
What do you make of that?
He can't score proper ones. To be fair, it's one of those things where, look, if you're not going to catch me, I'm going to do it. And obviously they didn't catch him, did they? So I think fair play, personally.
Yeah.
It's obviously it is cheating, but it's if he's going to try it on and they don't catch him. Yeah.
I mean, if you've got all this technology set up to catch things like that and it doesn't, then it's kind of like, well, it's your own fault, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be livid though if he'd done that against Brighton. So I'm going to be.
Brighton don't concede goals, mate.
No, I know, 2 clean sheets. I mean, we nearly set the record for the most games with a goal in, and then we got 2 0-0s in a row.
Yeah.
Very, very weird. Let's take a look at some data then. Let's take a look at some team data defence over the last 6. To start with, I mean, we're gonna talk about Newcastle defence in a bit, because they are rock bottom of the team data defence, which is an incredible turnaround when you think about last season and in the early stage of this season as well, when they were right at the top. But I mean, what do you make of them? I mean, Trippier, all these links with Bayern. He's not going to leave.
I don't think he will.
I can't see it.
No, I mean, the one thing to be said about Newcastle's last 6 matches is they've had tough matches. They really have, and they've obviously conceded a lot of goals. They did have tough matches at the beginning of the season and didn't do this badly, but I think with a combination of their players being potentially out and they're missing key players as well, I think that's got to be taken into consideration. They've just been more susceptible to capitulating this season, whereas obviously they didn't last season. That's the biggest thing. Like when they've lost games to opposition this year, it's been heavy losses, which you're actually feeling quite comfortable playing players against them this year. Whereas last year it was like, no, that's a tough game. That's one of the hardest games you can have. So that's obviously been a little bit different. But I do think, because their fixtures actually turn quite nice from game week 23 onwards, they've got some really nice games and really nice home games as well. So, for instance, there you've got Luton in 23, you've got Bournemouth in 25, Forest in 24. So their fixtures do turn quite nice. I think they've just had a really tough run, and everybody was highlighting this run saying, is Eddie Howe going to kind of be at risk
here? Andy, it's funny you should say that, because we've got another comment in there from Daniel Banks saying this is surely just the Liverpool game. Well, I've got another surprising stat for you. If we look at Newcastle over the season, they are 3rd from bottom.
Ooh. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you say 3rd from bottom, but there is 0.1 difference between 12
doesn't matter.
and 18.
But still, you wouldn't expect Newcastle to be amongst Sheffield United, Luton, Burnley. Yeah. I mean, they're the 3 teams around them, along with West Ham as well. You would have thought they'd be in the top 6. They're a top 6 defence, easy, given what we've seen.
But this is what we were saying in terms of when they've lost games, they have lost by a ridiculous amount, haven't they? And obviously that's just boosted up their XGC in terms of, I mean, like I said, Liverpool, was it 7, 8 or whatever it was they conceded against Liverpool, XGC. So yeah, all of a sudden you're looking at it and thinking, that's kind of why. I'd still back them moving forward, especially with the fixtures. I feel like they're one of the ones where people aren't really going to go near them. And players like Gordon and Trippier could still be quite good moving forward. Maybe not Trippier because he's quite expensive, but yeah, I think you can still trust them moving forward with the fixtures.
Are you going to be getting a Newcastle defender?
No. just because obviously I'm thinking of the doubles, and that's not where I wanted to use my moves at the moment.
I mean, Nigel the Crab, very, very damning on Eddie Howe. It's the Howe effect, happened at Bournemouth and Preston. He's just a mid-table run at best. Oof. A bit harsh, isn't it, on old Eddie?
Potentially. I mean, look, we've got no proof that he can do it higher up the table, can we? Obviously, he did it last year, and there was riding the crest of a wave. I still think he's a very good manager, but it is tough going from mid-table to I'm going to consistently be in the top 6. So yeah, we'll see. I do like Eddie Howe, but it'll be interesting to see how they do and how patient the owners are as well.
Well, with Mourinho available, as well. Which
you imagine?
There's a little flashing circular line, little flashing circle. I'm just going to try and get rid of that. Bear with me 2 seconds. Try not to delete your camera. There you go. It's gone. And it's gone. Beautiful. Any other surprises on this chart? I mean, Everton in 4th, I thought, over the season was quite interesting.
Yeah, Everton being 4th. I mean, we've said it most of the year, but Arsenal comfortably top. We've spoken about Arsenal defence quite a lot, and people were waiting for the clean sheets because they haven't been keeping them. But Arsenal are comfortably top on here, and obviously Liverpool have Arsenal up next, so that'll be interesting. Villa being 5th, and you've got their home record being comfortably better than their away record as well. Apart from that, Luton being bottom, I still think they're a tough place to go, but they really do concede a lot of goals at times as well. So Brentford being 6th though, with the double game weeks coming up, and all the black. I know Pinnock's been quite popular. So yeah. Apart from that, what about for you? Is there anything there that kind of stands out for you, especially with the double game weeks coming up?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know what you mean about Luton. I mean, I wasn't expecting Luton to be able to score as many goals, I think, as they have been doing. They found a system that clearly works, and they're able. I mean, Doherty just putting in cross after cross after cross. They concede 2 or 3 goals a game, but they know they're going to get chances because of the sheer number of crosses he puts in. No, I mean, not a huge amount of surprises here. I don't think. I mean, over the last 6, things like actually paint quite a similar story. Across a lot of these, there's not a huge amount of change. So there's not like anyone here I'm looking at and thinking, oh, there's suddenly a massive improvement in this team or a massive drop. Bournemouth are probably the one where you see an improvement, and we saw at the early stage of the season, Ariola's team was struggling in both areas of the pitch really, and then they got a couple of good results and just have really kicked on from there. But yeah, I mean nothing that surprising. I think Brighton are quite low down over the last 6, which is interesting considering we've kept the two clean sheets in those games. But yeah, like I said a few weeks ago, I do think more are coming. Let's take a look at attack. And I think the really interesting thing here is your team, Manchester United, because I'm not sure you're ready for how bad this is going to be.
Oh, I think I am. Yeah.
Well, over the last 6, Manchester United are 19th in terms of expected goal non-penalty per 90. They are just ahead of Burnley, who are by far the weakest team in this area, but they're below Crystal Palace, Sheffield United and Luton as well. And you mentioned kind of the 0.1 differences. Well, it's a bit more sizable. I mean, you can come out to Sheffield United, for example. We're looking at quite well, not massive, but fairly notable improvement. I mean, that is bad though, isn't it? Like how long has Ten Hag got with stats like that?
There's so many reasons for it though, isn't there? Like Højlund's obviously come in, he's a young lad and he misses quite a bit. Rashford's just been so out of form, and they're supposed to be our 2 biggest goal scorers. Obviously Bruno, everybody still compares him to that first year he came in where he got, I think it was 45 goals and assists in 1 year, whatever it was. So I think it's just one of those years with United. We have been so poor in an attacking sense. We really, really have. And I wouldn't be touching any of the United guys unless they had a double game week and kind of hoping that they do quite well. But like you just said there, this isn't small either. We are comfortably quite far behind mid-table in this. And when you
look at those big chances per 90, 0.67. That's nearly half the number of anyone else, even the worst teams in the league.
All right. Look, we can't all be Brighton up in 6th, right? But no, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, when you think Wolves, you remember Wolves last year, and they're comfortably beating us for XG average this season. So yeah, it does go to show as well that playing your defenders against Man United, especially if Man United are away and your defenders are at home, isn't the worst shout at the moment either. And
I'm sat having just bought Garnacho in on a -8. So I was delighted to see these stats. Interesting you mentioned, Rashford and Fernandes, because I'm going to be talking about them when we come to the midfielders. Because again, I was shocked to see Man U so low on this. I thought, obviously I know things haven't been great, but I thought maybe mid-table or a bit lower. I didn't think for second from bottom. You wait till we see Rashford and Fernandes, and that is the main reason why these metrics are suddenly so low. If we look at it over the season, I mean, you can see Manchester United a bit more improved. They're kind of in 14th along that. I think what has been really impressive, you look at this chart, you look at Spurs in 4th over the season. If we go back to the last 6, well, they're in 3rd. So even with the injuries and Son being missing and all these things happening, the Ange effect, still creating chances, still getting to the top of these metrics. You've got to say he's a bit of a miracle worker, isn't he?
He's done well. And of course, who have they got back now as well?
Yeah.
Got Mr. James Maddison back as well.
He's on my list for bringing in this week.
Which can only help. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, but you've also got to remember that they do blank in 26, and obviously they don't have that double in 25. So that's one of the reasons Az was thinking not to go for a Charlison last week. So now we're a week closer.
Madison's coming in, really the injured Maddison.
So is this really the time? I mean, Richarlison, I said to you last week, it's just ridiculous value. Midfielder that's most likely on pens while Son's away as well. Playing up front for them. He had probably his best game for Spurs against Manchester United as well. He was really good against us. So I still think he's a really good player to have. It's just obviously remembering that blank in game week 26.
Yeah. Villa interesting here. I mean, they're right down in 11th for the last 6 XG number per 90. We compare that to the season. I mean, they're in 7th, but we are seeing a bit of a drop in their numbers and in the results that they're getting as well, which leads us to the likes of Watkins. Obviously, Mark's got Bailey as well. Diaby's come in and he's actually been doing quite well. We will talk about Watkins in a bit more detail, but what are your thoughts on kind of Villa? Because I'm looking at Watkins and I'm just thinking, now Darwin's done something for me. I'm looking at Watkins and thinking, you're 55% own, mate, and you're not really delivering. Your
head's been turned.
Yeah, a little bit.
Don't get me wrong. The one thing I hate about Watkins is every week seeing that he's 99.9% EO, whatever it is, and you just think, it's just such a waste of time owning him. But obviously, if he does something, at least you're shielded against it. I will say their fixtures are better moving forward. The biggest thing I'll always say about Watkins, though, is he's not on penalties. That's always such a massive thing for me because obviously they can win 4-0 and he could not be involved. But obviously, if you're on penalties, you've always got that chance. So I do sometimes feel a little bit like that with Watkins. I've got Watkins, Solanke and Alvarez at the moment. And, I mean, it's between him and Solanke who's probably going to go up to Haaland because I think I want to keep Alvarez for the double. So it is a tough one. But he's just uninspiring, but I do get why people hold on to him. I've held on to him because, like I said, Villa have done okay at times this year. And they've got, what have they got?
I mean, look at the
Newcastle
fixtures.
At home.
Exactly. We've just established who are one of the worst defences in the league. Sheffield United, Manchester United, Fulham and Forest. I mean, that is an unbelievable run, really.
And that's what I mean. I don't think you can get rid of him for it. But I do get why people are kind of getting a bit bored of owning him because he's not doing anything. And obviously he's not affecting your team. But even if he does do something, he's not affecting your team either. So it's... he's just kind of one of those dead spots at the moment, isn't he?
Yep. So nice comments from the chat. Firstly, very very wholesome from SCO FPL. Love you, BlackBox. It's very nice. Thank you. No we love you too. We've also got from Dr. David 1963. As forgot to mention, Rashford has got 2 goals and an assist in the last 3. Not forgot to mention, chosen not to mention because it doesn't feed the narrative that I'm about to make when we get to midfielders. But if you're watching this show, you probably know that we love our underlying stats, and I think you're going to be very surprised by Rashford's underlying stats. That's all I'm going to say. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just surprised by it. James Harding says, I was just thinking as you turned on his for Richarlison, transfer logic by bringing Maddison. Absolutely here for that banter. Yeah, it's banter season for As FC this year.
Banter season. Banter FC.
That's why a lot of people turn up. And Daniel Banks, and I respect this because this is about how the season's going. Villa have Newcastle, who are the worst defence in the world apparently, then Sheffield United. So definitely sell. Because he's going to blank in them, right? That's kind of how it works. Let's take a look at some tier players then. So we'll start off with my favourite section of the BlackBox show in goalkeepers. And I'm quite happy this week. Got some points from mine. 9 points from Martinez. I will take that any day.
I'm trying to find it. Oh, there he is, 14.
There he is. He has been awful. But I mean, you can see there's so little between a lot of these keepers, right? I mean, Petrovic is kind of at the top of points per 90 with his 5 starts. You've got Allison, but you play a premium for that. You're not going to go near Fabianski. I mean, Areola, he's the one who has been delivering. He's the kind of the standout, because you look at everyone else, and these are a lot of these are goalkeepers making cameos because the other players are injured. Really, the Areola and Dubravka double up, I think, has been a big success so far. So if you've gone for that, then well done. Especially because it's pretty much the cheapest you can get it from. I mean, would you stick with that if you were wildcarding this week or looking for a new goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think so. I think there would be temptation to go for, people will hate it, but there would always be a temptation to go for someone like an Edison, because you've got those guaranteed starts in a double game week.
Is he fit? He went off injured, didn't he, in the last game?
He did, yeah. Ortega, obviously. Yeah, he was injured after like 10 minutes, wasn't he? And Ortega came in. But I do think, from what I've heard, he's
I was going to ask you about that, actually, because I thought that was really interesting. Because, I mean, I was watching that game, and obviously who are they playing? They're playing Newcastle, right? Yeah. Newcastle player goes through, clearly offside. Linesman doesn't flag, and Edison ends up getting injured off the back of it. And the commentators are saying, "Oh, it's ridiculous. They should do the thing." But the linesman, the argument is the linesmen are just doing their job. That's what they're told to do. That's the rules of the game. But then for the rest of the game, they didn't do it. Did you notice that? They were flagging.
Because it's happened twice to City this year, hasn't it? Where a player's got injured in a part of play that obviously then didn't exist eventually because they pulled it back. And I think they've got kind of a bit of a thing about it now. It's just unlucky. Like, how many times does that happen and people don't get injured? So it's incredibly unlucky that it's happened. But
don't you think it's strange that, like, if that's the rule, surely that's the rule. You can't see an injury and be like, oh, we better change the rule now because that's happened in this game.
Mate, they change the rules every 5 minutes of every game. Like, I'm struggling to keep up half the time. Sometimes I look at things and go, yeah, that's 100% going to be a goal, or that's a handball, whatever it is, and then it changes from one match to another. So yeah, I'm not surprised, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I think Edison's definitely somebody you've got to think about, because the double game week's coming up and because they don't blank in 26. So if you wanted to go for, say, an Edison and then a Foden and then a Haaland, I think that makes a lot of sense. But obviously they've always been kind of ridiculed for the lack of clean sheets. Yeah. But I think Areola and Dubravka is absolutely fine. It's so cheap, but you don't have a doubler for 25. But it depends what you want to do. You know, I still think, just because of the money, it's the two premium players to buy personally, Dubravka and Areola. Yeah,
I mean the other option is, you go for Flecken because of Brentford have got the double, and then again it's not a great double, and I think Flecken's been one of the biggest disappointments. I mean, if you look at this season data, you're looking at the expected goal prevented column. That gives a reasonably good marker of how well a goalkeeper's done, this season. Yeah. Have they saved more goals than they've conceded? It's normally quite a good metric for a goalkeeper. Look at Flecken, minus 8.5. That's the lowest of all the regular goalkeepers. I mean, they're looking at a new goalkeeper in the January transfer window. I've seen they've been linked with a few. Yeah. I mean, you look at Kaminsky, for example, at Luton. I mean, he's facing so many shots. They concede lots of goals, but he can hold his head up high. 6 on the delta for that.
Yeah, and you got Vicario and Jose Saru about the same as well. Yeah. So you've got some good keepers in there. But Areola, 4.70, you take that, wouldn't you? I think that's quite nice. Dubravka's quite high as well. Onana's not awful, but obviously he's just lost his place in the AFCON as well, hasn't he? So I don't think it's
that's hilarious, though, isn't it? He plays for Manchester United, drops a stinker in that, goes off to AFCON, drops a couple of stinkers in that, and then gets dropped. I mean, you couldn't really write it. Curse of Man at the moment. I mean, if you are looking at players as well, I mean, again, this is what if only Flecken was completely down, because I think there's still worries about whether he's going to keep his place. But if he was completely nailed, he's got the game in the double in 25, and then he's the only one with a guaranteed game in 29 as well at the moment in Burnley. So he would be the one that I'd be tempted to look at. But Brentford have been poor and he's been poor, so he's probably not the one. Yeah, I'd stick with Areola and Dubravka, I think, if I was buying now.
Thank you. I think I will.
Yeah, good for you. Although Martinez, come on, this is your time. I've had a lot of faith. Let's take a look at some defenders then. This is defenders over the last 6. Again, this is filtered by XGI non-penalty per 90. So it's looking at their kind of attacking potential rather than clean sheet potential, which obviously factors in massively with defenders. Of course it does. But I mean, we've got Trent at the top of this list. I mean, he's been sold in droves. Not in the squad at all tonight. Robertson, interestingly, is back in the squad.
Yeah.
For this one, what do you make of that from a Trent perspective? Are they just being cautious? Do you think he's going to come back in for the Chelsea game?
From everything that I've heard, it sounds like he's going to be coming back in sooner than we thought. Because obviously, originally we were hearing 2 to 3 weeks, and it was like, oh, actually, maybe he won't play. What was it? The Bournemouth game. Obviously, they've just played, and then Chelsea and Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, if you still have Trent, I think you hold him. But if you don't have him, I don't think I'll be getting him back in before game week 24. I don't really see the upside. I mean, when I bought in Estepinian, all I kept thinking was, I genuinely think Estepinian could outscore him in the next 3 to 4 weeks, because obviously Trent might not play one, and then he's got 2 tough fixtures. So I think if you've still got him, you keep him and you play him this week. But if you don't have him, I don't think he's a buy until 24, personally. Yeah. But you want him for the double.
Yeah, he's a tricky one, and I'm glad I kept hold of him, because I nearly sold him. But I'm hoping people have that attitude that you've got. The trouble is, it's always hard to know with these kind of, like we touched on it at the start. You focus on the kind of the medium to long term, and you ignore these players in the short term. You think, well, I'm not going to buy Jota or Trent because they've got 2 kind of tough games, and you hold off and hold off and hold off, and then they've scored 40 points, and then you're like, we should have just gone for that and then transferred them out afterwards. It's always a tricky balance.
It is.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think I agree. I think if you've sold him, I think we kind of knew that he had a chance of coming back for this Chelsea game anyway, right? And the expectation was that he's 50-50 for Chelsea, and then would almost certainly be back for the Arsenal match. So you knew what you were doing when you sold him. So you don't just panic and get him back if he comes back in for this game.
And I panicking a player in to then play against Chelsea and Arsenal, I don't think makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's got the upside, but obviously you sold him hopefully for a player that could do quite well in the fixtures he's got coming up. So, for instance, like I got Estepinian, and his fixtures are lovely for the next 3, so I don't feel bad, obviously, having sold him. The only thing I'll say about, you mentioned Jota there, obviously I know we're on defenders. I do feel differently about Jota a little bit compared to Trent. For instance, Jota absolutely loves scoring against Arsenal, and they got Arsenal, and I do fancy them to score against Chelsea. So I feel like that's a little bit different. Whereas Trent, for the next 2 weeks at least, I don't know whether he's got the upside to bring him back in yet. Well,
I think with the other options that we're looking at Man City because they're playing Burnley at home. So if you haven't got Foden, if someone like Walker, Bernardo Silva's quite popular. Too.
Walker's up there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Walker's 8.
Well, Walker's someone I wanted to talk about, because he's another player that I'm looking at bringing in this week. We talked about the fixtures, the fact they play Burnley, the fact they then got the double as well, and then they go into 26 with a game in that too. I mean, look at the baseline bonus for Walker there, 16.86. That's only, I mean, if you look at kind of players that we'd actually consider, it's only below Estupiñán, Porro and Trent, who a lot of us kind of own. He is, when City get a clean sheet, he is very likely to come away with bonus, and he's been chipping in with the odds assists and goal. And if you compare his stats over the last 6 to his stats over the season, you can see over the season he's right down there in 40th, 0.14, and that's increased to 0.29, so more than doubled over the last 6.
Yeah, no, obviously he got the assist last week, didn't he? I'm just looking at, I know I'm going back to Trent very quickly. Porro's 3rd on here, and he's obviously had a very good season. He's playing for an attacking Spurs side. He's got the blank in 26, and obviously in 25 he doesn't have a double game week. If you had to lose Porro to get to Trent, would you do it in 25?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be. I mean, 25 is Wolves at home, which is a decent fixture, and 27 is Palace at home, which again is a decent fixture. But then you've got a blank in 29 as well. Most likely, maybe not, but and you're kind of thinking, well, that's 2 games out of those 5. And then you've got a Trent coming in for that double game, which you're going to need him for. And you've got Maddison coming back, who's going to take some of those set pieces and corners off him. So, yeah, the stats are really good and nice. And Porro isn't someone that I want to lose, but he's not cheap anymore. He's 6 million now, nearly. I think he's gone up to 5.9 since this table was made. So, yeah, I think you've got to be looking at, if you're looking at Estupiñán, if you're looking at Trent, you're looking at Porro, and if you're looking at someone like Walker as well, if you've got Trippier too, you've got to be thinking, well, which of these players is the one I'm going to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it could be Porro. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to talk about Estupiñán as well, because, look at him there. I thought he'd be much higher than this over the last 6.
Yeah.
He's right down in 45th for defenders, and his XGI non-penalty per 90 is 0.09. So he's had a goal, in that time, and he got the 2 bonus as well. But he's playing in this new kind of left centre-back role, which we hadn't seen him play. And if you compare that to the season data, when he was marauding up and down the wing like as much as he wanted, he was 8th out of defenders in those 8 starts. With 0.33 XGI non-penalty per 90. There's clearly been a change in Estupiñán, and as a Brighton fan, I'm quite happy with it in a way, because it's putting less pressure on him to keep bombing up and forward and risking another injury because he's been out for quite a long time. It's suiting him on the bonus points because he's making more passes and making more clearances, and actually the biggest thing is he's losing the ball less because he dribbles with it so much and loses it, and that gets punished so severely on the baseline bonus system. But it has come at the cost of the attacking potential. So you've got Estupiñán, you brought him in last week. You happy with what you've seen so far, or a little bit worried? Whoa!
Oh,
was that?
Sorry. No. Do you know what? Because it was interesting. Has he always been on corners as well? Because he was taking corners as well, wasn't he, or free kicks?
Yeah, that's new. That is new.
Yeah. So that was obviously big as well. I'm not too worried. We basically saw this happen with who was it? Was it Reece James started to do it a little bit, didn't he? He was starting to play that right centre back role. I think it obviously doesn't help with the attack and returns, like we've said already, and that's one of the things you're always looking for from your defenders. But if he's playing in a good Brighton team, he's still got the access to points in terms of the corners, and he does get forward at times. I think it's good, especially in terms of the bonus as well that he's going to be getting. So I would prefer him to be that marauding left winger that we've seen before. But I'll take it. I'll take, a 5.1 million defender who still has the potential to get some attack and return. So I don't think it's too bad. Looking in hindsight, would I have bought him if I'd have known he'd been playing left centre-back? I probably would have just kept Trent, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad if you own him.
Well, the question is, do you just go for Van Heck, for example, who's 4 million?
I know a few that did.
Yeah. And he's a good player, and he has scored a goal, I think, this season. He got a header. I think he got an assist as well was that in a cup game? I think it was. So, I mean, he's a good option at 4. If you're looking for money to get the likes of Trent and to get the likes of Haaland as well, okay, it's maybe less of a kind of option with Salah maybe being out and Son too. But long term, I think Van Heck is a good pick who's going to go overlooked as everyone flocks to a Superman.
On your last 6 game weeks for defenders, is he on there for bonus points? I was wondering how he kind of Van Heck. There he is.
He is not really low 10.74. That's actually one of the lowest out of the top 30 for the baseline bonus. So you're not really. Yeah, there's not a lot of
6 or 2.
Yeah, 6 or 2 exactly. But he's 4 million, so.
Yeah.
You kind of get what you pay for. And I think like Ivorkan says here, oops, if I just move that up, the corners as well is a big thing. If Superman is going to be taking corners, that boosts the, even if the open play XGI is low, you've still got the chance for something from a corner. So I still like him. I think at 5.1 he's still a good price. I think he's going to reach probably 5.3, 5.4. And then it's kind of like, now we're getting into quite expensive territory, especially when we've got the big hitters coming back. But for now, still think it's a good pick. I want to talk about Gabriel as well.
No, I don't want to.
I mean, let's be honest. If you watch this show, like I said earlier, you're into all of the stats. The stats didn't indicate a 17-pointer from Gabriel. Looking at defenders, 36th over the season, 0.15. XG on penalty per 90. I mean, it's high. It's double what Saliba's is at 0.08, but there's kind of barely anything in it. And then Saliba actually had more attacking returns going into that game than Gabriel did.
That is not what Gabriel owners will tell you. No.
We bought him for the goal threat. We always knew Arsenal would stop doing short corners all the time and start putting it into him. It does feel like I don't think he's on the last 6. I think he has gone up. Yeah, so he's 9th now, but you kind of expect that because he's had the 2 returns. Obviously, Saliba isn't on there. I think we know he's a threat from corners. We know Arsenal have got the players to put a good corner in and good delivery, but they haven't really been looking to do it. The thing is, Palace are so bad at defending corners. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those ones where he's going to be very popular, isn't he? People are going to be flocking to Gabriel, but that's got to be a bit of a knee-jerk move, isn't it? If you're...
I mean, we say this, he'll do it again next week, but I do think if you're looking to make a defensive move this week, you've got to be looking at, like, say, a Walker or someone like that this week rather than getting it in a Gabriel. I mean, the fixtures aren't terrible. They got Nottingham Forest away, Liverpool at home, West Ham away, Burnley away. But that's 3 away games in the next 4. I think you've got to be going for one of those players. Like I said, like a Walker makes an awful lot more sense than a Gabriel now. Kind of don't, you've missed those points. Don't try and get the potential points going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky though, because you look at the defence over the season. You look how high Arsenal are on this list. But, I mean, City aren't far behind, but like you said earlier, City find a way to concede goals. To be honest, Arsenal have been finding a way to concede stupid goals in matches.
Yeah,
and then you have a game like Palace, and they look so comfortable and they play so well. And you're like, oh, they're never going to concede again. And then they go into Forest away next week, and they'll probably concede 2 stupid goals from absolutely nothing. So. Tough one. I mean, I'm guessing you won't be making a Saliba to Gabriel switch, basically.
No, exactly. Because as soon as I do that, Saliba will be getting the
100%
next week.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine?
You just know it. Any other defenders you want to mention here? I think that's all the ones I'd marked out. I mean, Chilwell coming back is interesting. Gives another potential option. He is top of the defenders over the season in the 4 starts that he made.
And I mean, you've got to mention Doherty, I suppose, as well there. 2.30 chances created per 90 is ridiculous for a Luton defender at 4.5.
Well, Trent's 2.95 and so's Trippier at 2.92. So it's not far off.
He's just a very good asset. But again, you've got to remember he blanks in game week 26. So if you're getting in all these players, you've got to have a plan for 26, because you could just be bringing in loads of players. We've mentioned Liverpool, we've mentioned Spurs, and we've mentioned Doty there. If you get all of those players in the next couple of weeks, you're going to have nobody for 26. So just keep that in your back of your mind.
And again, that's what just keeps pushing me towards Walker as a defensive move this week. I mean, if you're, even if we get news that Trent's back or whatever, I just think Walker is such a good pick right now going forwards. I mean, some people are going to be potentially tripled up on City attack with Haaland, with De Bruyne and Foden, for example. I don't know. I think De Bruyne can be the sacrifice there for Walker. He's definitely someone I've got my eye on. We are getting a few questions about Walker. About Ivorcan asked about Stones being back soon. Will that affect Walker's minutes when they have 2 matches a week? I'm surprised to have seen Walker play as many games as he has done. I mean, has he started every game so far this season?
I think hasn't he? Yeah, he's close to 90 every game, isn't he? Which
is amazing, because obviously they've got a Kanji, who I know is injured at the moment, but he's been playing quite a lot. He was playing quite a lot of right back last season. Walker seems to have taken it up another gear. Yeah, he's played. Not only has he started every game, he's played 90 minutes in all games but one, which was Sheffield United when he came off after 67. So you can worry about it a bit too much, I think.
Yeah.
We don't know if Stones is fit. We don't know, when he's going to come back. We don't know if he's going to play at right back. That isn't typically where he plays.
And also, you're not just thinking about the double game week. You're thinking about the 2 blank game weeks where they're potentially playing, and he will play for you. So it's a less of a worry, if that makes sense. There's always the potential for any player to not play, but I think with Walker, like you just said, you hit the nail on the head. You're probably just overthinking it if you're thinking, he might be in danger later on.
Well, this is the thing from Jason. So Jason says, thank you for the super chat, says, wouldn't restrict myself from having treble City attack, getting Ederson or Walker more upside. So that's where, because it's not just De Bruyne. You could also go for a Doku or a Bernardo Silva or even Alvarez.
That's so easy to say, isn't it? That's theoretically saying, I'll just go triple City attack. Which triple City attackers are you picking that are definitely going to play both games in the double game?
Well, you're not necessarily saying that you're going to pick them now, but they could say Grealish got injured in training.
Yeah,
and he hasn't been starting. I mean, that would effectively nail Doku down, right, for the left wing role. So then you're going for Foden, Doku, and Haaland.
So let's say Grealish doesn't get injured.
Yeah.
Who are you going for then?
Well, then
I don't think.
Then I think it's
KDB.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think KDB is still risky personally. He's literally come out constantly and said, I need to look after myself. I'm not expecting to start games.
Don't worry, we're going to get on to De Bruyne. Don't you worry. You can save that for the De Bruyne section. I guess the thing with Jason's question is that if you go for a Walker on Ederson, you're locking yourself out of the prospect of being able to get 3. So if you've got Haaland and Foden, say De Bruyne starts 2 in a row, and let's say he gets double-digit points in both of those, you're suddenly going to be thinking, shit, how am I going to get De Bruyne? Because now I've got to move Walker out for someone else. And I don't really want to move Walker out for someone else because he's doing all right. And they're keeping, they kept a couple of clean sheets. I know what you're saying, but it's about flexibility, isn't it, I guess? And
the other thing I will say is we don't have a Cancelo anymore. We don't have a player from City's defence that can get you, you're looking at a game week and thinking, I'm expecting a return. Like, you don't expect returns from Walker. So I do get that. But also, I don't think it's something where you just look at it and go, I've got to have triple Man City attack. You can have a defender. And I do think Walker, it just makes an awful lot of sense to hold him now for the next, until you wildcard in 30 or whenever it is. I think he is a very good buy, personally. But I do get that I'm most likely going to have triple Man City attack. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit.
Oh yeah, here we go. You're just telling people not to get here so you can maximise the points. I see how it is. Yeah,
I wouldn't do that.
Oh,
I'm going Doku, mate. I've already brought him in.
I'm going to say I don't like triple attack on any team. Like on Liverpool, on Man City. I can think of occasions when it's worked, but it is a lot of eggs in the basket. And if they do struggle in a game, do you know the last time I massively remember doing it was Man United's triple game week. Fernandes, Rashford,
Rashford,
Martial or
Fernandes,
someone.
And Martial.
Martial,
yeah.
I think it was the
that
same.
was great.
Yeah, that was when Fernandes got about 30 points, didn't he? And
yeah, it was great. Rashford got a few as well. The Liverpool game was like 5-3 or something.
Yeah. I'm not saying it can't work out, but I have tripled up on teams before. I think Arsenal are one that comes to mind.
Liverpool's always one as well.
I think I had Marcelo, Saka, and Jesus for a bit last season, and
Odegaard maybe. Yeah.
Odegaard, like things like that. And you kind of like when you get to like 60 minutes and it's 0-0, you're really starting to freak out because you're like, oh, the defenders are doing well, but my players aren't getting anything. So interesting. Right, let's look at midfielders then. We can have our De Bruyne discussion.
Yes.
Now, I don't think he's on this list for midfield over the last 6 because obviously he hasn't had a start yet. So I can't tell you what his XGI is. But I do want to point, as I alluded to earlier, midfielders over the last 6 game weeks, Bruno Fernandes and Rashford. I could not believe this when I saw it. I thought both of those players, given the sheer ability they've got, will just be in the top 30 just because they're Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford. Not in the top 30. Not in the top 50. Not in the top 80. Bruno Fernandes, 81st out of midfielders for expected goal involvement, non-penalty per 90. And Rashford, 90th. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has no attacking returns in that time. Rashford has 2 goals and an assist. And they're still ranking down that. I mean, forgetting about Rashford, I know Rashford's had problems this season, has been in and out of the team. But I mean, Fernandes is an ever-present captain, the absolute talisman of your club. How on earth can he be 81st?
I mean, his chances created per 90 is still high up there with the rest of them, and obviously beats most of the people in that table. But yeah, the XGI obviously isn't very good. But it's
can't quite reach those straws that you're clutching at. Oh, there they are. Sorry, just go on. There you go.
Why did you kiss the straws?
There's a weird noise that I didn't mean to make.
But it's I know it's obviously not good. We've spoken about it already. I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there were some people that did actually go, I'm going to go for Bruno a couple of weeks ago, and obviously have regretted it quite a bit. Rashford has been in and out. Obviously, Garnacho has been preferred quite heavily, and I kind of see that as well. Rashford is one of those streaky players. He really is. He's a confidence player, and when he doesn't have it, he doesn't play very well. So I think Bruno Fernandes, it's just been, there's only so many chances you can create for people that aren't converting in front of him. If that's it is though. Like, he's creating the chances. You've seen it there. How many chances he creates per 90, and he's kind of restricted in the team he's in at the moment. And we've seen that with Ten Hag this season. It's not working in an attacking sense. So yeah, I wouldn't be going anywhere near Bruno and Rashford, let alone the fact we've obviously got the double game weeks and things coming up as well. So they're nowhere near my radar at the moment.
I look at this as a kind of a neutral watcher of Manchester. I don't know, everyone says that I hate them, which isn't true. No, not true at all. I
just the fans.
Definitely the fans.
Yeah.
I look at Bruno Fernandes and I look at these stats and I think this is one of the best players in the league. And has been for years now. And you can say he's been put in a struggling team or he's in a struggling team, whatever. But either he's underperforming massively to have to be this ineffective in terms of these goal involvements. And you look at Manchester United's overall chances created. Well, Fernandes is the heartbeat of that team. There should be more things happening in that side. So is it his fault because he's not reaching the standards that he should be? Or is it Ten Hag's fault for not using him in the position or in the way that gets the most out of him, unlocks the other players and can get him the goal involvements? Or is it both?
It's a little bit of both, but I would say it's more to do with Ten Hag, and it's also more to do with the underperforming players around him. I mean, genuinely, Højlund, young lad who's just coming in learning his trade. I do think he's going to be very good though moving forward. Not for FPL this season, but in a couple of years' time. Rashford's been in and out and been very, very poor. Garnacho's obviously been streaky. He's a very, very young lad. And then Anthony. And you just think there's nothing there. Martial's obviously always injured. There's just nothing there in terms of conversion for him at the moment. So I do think I think he's fine in terms of, obviously I wouldn't be selling him if I was a United manager, but I do think that he's been let down by the system and the creation that Ten Hag made. But also, like I said, with just the people around him, they're just underperforming. There's so many instances I can remember where he set people up and they just haven't finished their chances. And you only need a few of those to go, and all of a sudden the stats go up quite heavily. So yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, the biggest thing here, which we're talking about, is obviously FPL, and I wouldn't be touching either of those, unfortunately. The fixtures aren't awful moving forward. We've got Wolves away, West Ham at home, then there's Luton and Fulham in there as well. And after that, there's Everton, Sheffield United at home. But with no double game week, I wouldn't be doing it personally. Yeah, look, the fixtures aren't too bad on the ticker, but Garnacho is obviously one that I think you could go with because of just how cheap he is.
Oh, thanks, Andy. That's good. That's good to hear.
Sorry, how cheap Garnacho is.
Funds are tight. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the fixtures for Man U, and I looked at the Spurs game. Thought I think there's a goal in that game for Man U. And actually, Garnacho was unlucky at the end. It was McTominay, wasn't it? He put it on a plate for him, and he headed it wide. I look at West Ham, I look at Luton, look at Fulham, and think, okay, there's a chance for me to bring in Garnacho into these games if I need him to. But yeah, I think when it comes to the other players, it's a shame just to have a team like Manchester United with all this talent, with this big money signing in Højlund, with Rashford, with Fernandes, and we're just not really considering them. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame. Anyway, on to things that are more relevant to FPL. We've had a question from Blort saying, what is a Brereton? That's Brereton Diaz, of course, who had a really poor time over in Villarreal. I think he signed on a free for them, has now been bought, but instant impact, and he's 5 million playing. I mean, he is a sort of drifting out to the left a bit, but he's played a lot of games as a striker for Blackburn. I'd say I'd class him as out of position.
Yeah, he's Gaffer legend. So obviously when I used to play Gaffer, he was brilliant in that BBD. So he does do that though. He doesn't like to play, completely up front. He does like to drift to the left, and he did that when he was playing for Blackburn as well. Very interesting. They put him as a midfielder, but I suppose maybe they see the same as, for instance, like a Salah where they're playing off the left rather than up top. So 5 million. If Sheffield United have a double game week later on, obviously maybe you could take a bit of a punt. I quite like the fact he's a mid because you don't really want to use a striker position on him when there's a double game week later on. But 5 million midfielder. I do expect him to play pretty much every game for Sheffield United now. I think he's comfortably going to be one of their best attackers now. Hurts Archer. That's the only thing if you're still holding on to Archer, because obviously he was benched this weekend as well. Although Brewster was then sent off, wasn't he? So that's less competition for Archer. But I do think Brereton Diaz is a good player to have on your radar for very later on in the season. I
thought it was very interesting when Osula was subbed, and it was McBurney that came on, and then Brewster came on as well. It shows how far down Archer seems to have dropped. And I sold Archer as part of the -8, and yeah, I'm glad he's gone, because he has been pretty crap for us. I mean, you don't have a lot of hopes for a 4.5 million forward play for Sheffield United, but you do hope occasionally he could get something. He got an assist for a few people, didn't he, a few weeks ago? But other than that,
they always seem to come from Sheffield United as well, because it was Brewster last time. I remember that, because Liverpool obviously sold Brewster to Sheffield United. Everybody was like, "Yes, here we go, playing 4.5," and he was awful. And it's happened with Archer pretty much. I mean, Archer did get 1 or 2 goals. He got me an assist. That was a few weeks.
A bloody dodgy assist.
What?
Sorry, a classy, elegant assist for a.
Why are all my returns dodgy and all your returns?
Sorry, do you want me to go back to your optimized?
Bring up Marks again.
Okay. I still think they're really interesting. But I mean, what do you think of as a 5 million kind of asset? Because I've got Garnacho at 4.8. I still think he's the one that I'd go for. I think he's a class player. On actually, I really like him. I think he's really good.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
But you've got,
I do like him.
Yeah, you've got the slightly more goal threat with Diaz, I think, and he's probably going to take pens, I imagine. I think
McBurney took it, didn't he?
McBurney or there's Norwood, isn't it? I think he takes them as well. But I reckon they'll probably give him to Diaz. I think he's got a pretty decent record when he was a Blackburn.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't like to say, to be perfectly honest, but I think obviously when McBurney's on the pitch, he'll take them. But it's it'd be interesting to see. I would be very, very surprised if I went for Brereton Diaz, unless it was, say, in game week 37, and I know I could not play him in 38, or if I was free hitting in a week, that might be quite fun. But yeah, I don't see myself seriously going for him not anytime soon anyway.
This is what the people want on BlackBox, Andy. Me and you talking about Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, and Diaz of Sheffield United. Oh, yes. One, before we move on to some players that people are actually considering, just a shout out to Leon Bailey, who obviously Mark's got, who's fallen down to 45th out of midfielders over the last 6. I think Mark will be a little bit concerned with that, particularly because Diaby, who was obviously such a kind of a main target for us at the start of the season, is there in 15th, and he's come into the team and has looked better, kind of, I'd say, as well. So yeah, I think Mark will be a little bit concerned about Bailey's output, but the fixtures are good and he's starting, so I doubt he's gonna get rid of him.
And Palmer in 4th, by the way. He's just unbelievable. He's like Mahrez was all those years ago when he was so cheap. Like, he's just absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, if you don't have him yet, you just have to get him, don't you? Like, he's just been having an unbelievable season, and 5.8 is still an absolute bargain for him, isn't it?
Yeah, and it feels like, I think things are starting to change a little bit with Chelsea. I kind of sense that they're finding ways to kind of win games now. They've obviously had a big win against Middlesbrough in the Cup. They've had some decent results against Man City, for example, and they scored quite a few goals in that. And they've got this talismanic player now. Because if they didn't have Palmer, if they hadn't managed to get him, I just don't know who would have stepped up for them. Yeah. I think they'd be really struggling. But when you've got a player like that who you can kind of look to get you out of trouble and score decisive goals, like that penalty against Fulham, they've always got a way to win games. And yeah, I think Chelsea are going to be a team who get stronger kind of as the season goes on, because Pochettino's a good manager and they've got decent players. So I think they're on the up.
Fixtures are tough though, moving forward.
They are, and again, we've got the question marks around 26 and things like that. Yeah. I don't think we're going to be considering anyone other than Palmer for now. But yeah, I think Chelsea will be on my list for kind of the end of the season. What can possibly go wrong? We all went with Chelsea at the start of the season, and it was terrible.
Should we? I was going to say, should we talk about the two big boys now then?
Well, yeah, the two big boys. One of them isn't on here, which is De Bruyne. The other one is Jota as well. So, shall we start with Jota?
Yeah, let's go for it. Obviously, absolutely smashed it this week with 19 points, didn't he? But I don't know. I've still got that niggling doubt in my head that, because I was looking at it, obviously I still own Salah, and I'm thinking, right, do I get rid of Salah this week? Who do I replace Salah with? And Jota has to be in that conversation. I think if you don't have Foden, and it's interesting actually that Foden is... Where's Foden on this list?
He's 17th.
He's 17th. I would say Foden is the first person on my list who you replace Salah with, personally. But I think Jota would probably be second or third. It's just... I am wondering in my head whether he is a wait, and he is a wait till 24, like I've said with Trent, because I just think, I don't know, I worry a little bit. And the biggest thing I keep thinking, I know I'm going to be like a broken record tonight, but I just keep thinking, yes, he's got that double game week, but we don't know whether Salah's going to be back for that double game week. And then we also have the blank in 26 and then the blank in 29. And there's just that niggling doubt for me about Jota, personally. He has been good as an FPL asset before, but he's been very, very streaky. Maybe this is one of the starts of his streaks. Yes, he's probably played himself into playing for this Liverpool team now, moving forward, obviously, because Salah's out. But there's just that niggling doubt. Chelsea at home, then Arsenal away. From 24 onwards, brilliant. But again, when Salah's back, I just don't know. There's just a bit of a niggling doubt. I don't know how you feel about it. Is it a home run pick, do you think? Or
well, I mean, look at his points per 90, 23.61. That's if he carries on the rate he's doing. Obviously, he's not going to do that. I mean, it was a bit annoying because the dog's going, man. Ooh. I was it's an Amazon delivery, I think. I was considering Jota. When I was looking at players before Trent got injured, I was looking at midfield and thinking, I've got Salah and Son, and obviously I had Richarlison, I had Jota. that I was looking at. I was looking at Pascal Gross as well. And in the end, I went for Garnacho. So that's because I did the Trent move and things. I wanted to free up a bit of money. And you can say like, oh, if my mother had my aunt had wheels, she'd be my uncle. No, if my aunt had wheels, she'd be
what?
If my aunt had wheels, she'd be a bike.
If my aunt had wheels, she'd
be my uncle.
Christ. Oh dear.
Gino Di Campo, a famous one.
Yeah.
But so obviously I didn't go for him, but it feels like an opportunity lost because I'm looking at my season and thinking, man, if I had a 19-pointer like that's suddenly a completely season defining move. And now it's that question: well, is it chasing? Is it chasing points to go for the player who's just scored 19? I mean, the last 3 games have been 3 goals and 3 assists, and 2 of those off the bench. I don't think there's any doubt at the moment that the first choice front 3 involves Jota. Like it's Jota. Darwin and Diaz until Salah's back, and then when Salah comes back, who does he kind of usurp? And at the moment, kind of my money would be on Diaz because I think he scored tonight, hasn't he? But generally speaking, he's had so much going on in his personal life as well. You can't really blame him, but he hasn't really hit the standards that we thought he might.
He was also, out of the 3 of them, he was the one that was pushed out to the right, which I thought was quite interesting. So obviously Jota played on the left, Darwin played up top, and then they also swapped around a little bit as well. But it was Diaz being pushed out to the right, which I think says an awful lot.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot that for me, I think, it does make sense to go with Jota. I just, like I said, got that niggling thing in the back of my head with Chelsea at home and then Arsenal away. I think they'll score against Chelsea. Arsenal away is the toughest defence in the league. We've seen that with the stats. So I'm just wondering whether waiting is the play. It's just if you do wait, do you get rid of Salah and get somebody else in? That's the thing. Like, is there somebody better to target instead of Jota at the moment for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky because I think there's a lot of potential in Jota. It's not just the 19 points. I'm looking and thinking, well, this is a clinical finisher, and if we look back at the team data attack over the last 6, who are top? Liverpool. Who are top over the season? Liverpool. Like, you're getting in the most clinical finisher by some distance in that team for the top attack. And actually, we worried about the impact of taking Salah out of the team. Well, they found a way to still create chances and still make things happen even without him. So you can't say that he's a bad pick and it just is chasing points. I've kind of disregarded that theory because he looks a great option. It's just, is he the best option for us to go for?
That's exactly it. And you've got to obviously take into account that the double game week's there. So obviously that's lovely, the fact that you can have him for the double game week. But like I said, will Salah be back? How does that affect him? But you think that maybe, Diaz would be the one to make way. Would Jota play both games? Tough ask. And then obviously with the 2 blanks in the next 4 game weeks after that, I think there's a few question marks about going for Jota. But again, this is another thing where I'm like, do we free hit in 25? Do we just say, no, just not going to worry about it? Someone else can worry about that and get him and, chase points and not get the points. I'm going to get the 3 Liverpool players that look like starting in the double game week when I get the information and get there and free hit. So these are just all those things that I'm looking at and thinking, is free hit 25 just the way to go? But yeah, I do think I get both ways. I get going for Jota and I get not going for Jota. At the moment...
That's great, Andy. Don't sit on the fence.
I know. I hated to hear myself say that then. I don't think I'll get him personally this week, but by the time I get to 24, I might.
Well, I mean, another way of looking at it, I think, is you've kind of got we've kind of called this kind of risky business, and I think all 3 of these players that I'm about to mention have short-term risk to long-term risk, depending on which one you go for. I mean, say you've got Salah. I think the perfect example is Salah, right? A lot of people were thinking of holding him, and now they're worried about the injury, which we think is going to be a minimum of 4 weeks. I still think it could be even worse than that, considering he's flown back from Egypt to Liverpool. They've kind of said this status about him, and the Egypt FA are saying, we're really upset with Liverpool for saying that. Like, I don't know. There's something about it which just says this is probably quite a bad injury, and 4 to 6 weeks would be a kind of a good return for him. And we don't know how long these things. I mean, look at Haaland. Look how long that injury's gone on for. We thought that was going to be a week, and it's gone on. So I think selling Salah is not really a debate anymore. I think you sell him if you've got it. If you've got him personally. So then it's who'd you go for? Well, the standouts for me are De Bruyne, obviously, who we need to talk about because we haven't done that yet. Jota, or you go for a Spurs midfielder if you haven't got one already.
Or Foden as well, by the way.
In Richarlison. Okay, I'm putting De Bruyne or Foden kind of in that bracket. I guess Foden's the safer option if you're a bit less risk averse. I mean, with the Spurs players, you've got amazing short-term fixtures. Brentford at home, Everton away, Brighton at home, Wolves at home. That is a great run. And if you're getting Richarlison, you're getting a penalty taker. You can see him on this list. He's 6th, 0.75 in the XG on penalty per 90. But then you've got to contend with blank in 26, probably a blank in 29 as well. Do you go for Jota, who's not got great short-term fixtures at all, and he's got the probability of being dropped or at least having his minutes managed when Salah's back, but has just scored 19 points and all that? Or do you go for De Bruyne, who is, I would say, the riskiest of the three options? Don't know if he's going to start against Burnley. Doesn't look ready to start against Burnley based on his own comments about it as well. I am not sold at all on this De Bruyne influx that we're seeing. I can't believe his ownership's nearly 20%. I can't believe it.
I'm annoyed that we're both going the same way, because I was hoping you were going to say
I thought you were trying to sell him to me.
Yeah. No, I said it at the time, and I got ridiculed by people on the comments from after Scoutcast, because I genuinely said that I thought KDB owners were very lucky. I thought they're very lucky. They got it wrong with the X minutes. They thought he was going to start that game. He didn't start the game. Came on for 21 minutes, got a goal and an assist. For me, that is, you've made a poor decision getting him in early, and he's rewarded you with points where you maybe shouldn't have been. Well done for getting them, but you maybe shouldn't have got them. A bit like maybe Martinelli owners, well, that's a little bit different.
Oh, you're not going after the world number one, former world number one, are you?
No, not at all. But I think literally there has been so many warnings from KDB, from Pep, from everybody around him saying, I am not ready to start games. And people are like, yes, he's back, get him in, love it. Obviously with a double game week. I do not see him starting both games in the double game week. I'd be very surprised if he does. They genuinely do have players that can play in his position at the moment, and they can win games. They've got other really tough fixtures, not in the Premier League, where they are going to need him. You know, you literally look at the tough games they got in Champions League and that. What haven't they had a KDB? And I feel like that's going to be the priority for them a little bit for those fixtures for him. And they can win games. They can muddle through in the Premier League, can't they? So I can very much see them doing that. So I don't see the KDB move myself. I could be very wrong there, and I could miss out on a haul. Andy Martin could triple captain him in game week 25 and he gets 90 points. But I personally, for me, I wouldn't be going there. But that's just me.
I mean, I think Blort makes a really good point. Blort's on one today, by the way. Some really good points. I mean, did we even own KDB when he played 90? I mean, De Bruyne was negotiable even when he was playing almost every week and stuff. We sometimes saw him playing in this kind of deep-lying playmaker role, and we got frustrated with him because he's not bursting into the box. He's not he's still playing well, still influencing games, doing all the things we want, but not always that player. And okay, the link up with Haaland last year was a kind of a different level, but Haaland's not fully fit. We think Haaland's going to be back soon, but we're never really
hoping.
We're never really completely sure. I don't know. I think when you've got a player who is actively saying, I'm not fit to start games yet, you don't buy him. You just don't buy him. That's how I feel about it.
And actually, I think that is a really good point, what Blort said. So Blort saying...
Blort's my favourite now. Yeah.
Is that I completely agree. I said it last year. I don't think he is one of those players that I would ever put the triple captaincy on. I just don't feel like he's a player that I would trust in a double game week. One, to start both games, and two, to get me an attack return. He's not on penalties. I personally, like I said, this is me, and other people might be jumping on him, and they did last week and obviously got points. I just don't think I would be going for him.
I made the point on Monday that it's very different bringing De Bruyne on for 30 minutes against Newcastle when you're 2-1 down and you're desperate to win the game, compared to when you're 3-0 up against Burnley and you're looking to see it out. That's a very, very different role that De Bruyne comes on for. So if De Bruyne doesn't start against Burnley, unless they're 1-0 down at half-time, which, let's be honest, that's so incredibly unlikely, given what we've seen from Burnley's defensive and attacking stats so far this season and over the last 6, he's getting a one-pointer. in that match.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets an assist in the last minute. I mean, put it completely past him, but I'd rather go for a Jota who's starting the game, even with a harder fixture, or a Richarlison with look at the numbers Richarlison's putting up on these, and with penalties as well. I'd feel a lot more positive about either one of those.
And I mean, look, if KDB plays every game, plays 90 minutes from now until the double game week, then my head might get turned a little bit, especially if Haaland might not be back and you're thinking, oh, actually, this could be the way to go. But I think people are going to invest now, and he's going to be, sub appearances up until then. Then you're in a real quandary with what to do with him. So the one massive thing I'll say about KDB is make sure you don't get him in and it prices you out of getting Haaland back for the double game week if it gets to it, because that is not the thing you want to do. If you can get him for Salah and you've still got the money to get the Haaland, then that makes a lot of sense. But the worst thing you could do is get him in and not be able to get the Haaland back.
Or even lock yourself out of it if you've got Walker, Foden, and then you add De Bruyne to it and then can't get Haaland that way. I mean, Foden is the other option. I think he's still a great pick. I love him as a player. I love him so much. I'm so glad that he's starting the majority of games and having the influence that he has. Doku is another option. I've mentioned him a couple of times on this stream. I mean, if you look at him over the season, you look at his touches in the box per 90. Of all midfielders, that's the highest. 13. Chances created is high. XG non-penalty per 90 is high. Grealish hasn't really been a factor so much in the start. So, if you're looking at De Bruyne, you're looking at Doku, and you're thinking, okay, well, neither of these players are guaranteed to kind of start. There's not a huge amount in it if you look at the stats, I don't think.
Yeah. I would love to be able to go for Doku over a double game week. Could you imagine having Doku start in both games? You'd be absolutely loving life, wouldn't you? But it's just, unless we get some indication, like you said, that Grealish is injured, I think it'd be tough going for him thinking he's going to start both.
I mean,
if you're on a free hit...
you talk about all or nothing. You talk about all or nothing with Doku. I mean, 2, 9, 1, 1, 1, 1, 6, 1, 5, 1, 22.
I remember that
against Bournemouth. Hell of a play. I mean, 2.5% ownership as well. Yeah. I think. I mean, and again, I mean, there are options. The other one is Bernardo Silva, who I've marked here over the season in 34th. He's popular. He's growing in popularity. He's a great goal that he scored against Newcastle as well. I mean, just before we move on to midfielders, what are your thoughts on Silva? He seems like, we talk about all these players like Jota, you got Foden, you got De Bruyne. You get to Bernardo Silva, I'm just a bit like,
I mean, but then this is what happens in double game weeks, isn't it? Like we all go for KDB, Jota, and then Bernardo Silva will score a goal in both games. It seems like one of those picks where if you don't have enough money to go for a Foden, you go for Silva, or if you need to get to Haaland and free up a bit of money, you go for Silva. I don't think he's a bad pick, but he's definitely not up in my kind of top 5 of players I would be picking this week.
I'd go Doku over Silva. That's probably why I'm 1.2 million.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think I would.
I don't think Silva's for me. I just don't really see how he can compare with some of the options that we've talked about. I think the others have just so much more upside to them compared to him. But he's an all right pick. He's nice and steady, isn't he? He's someone that you could just keep in for 6 weeks, and he's having a great season for Man City.
And he could play both games as well, which is obviously big too.
Is big. Yeah. Right then, finally, let's take a look at forwards. I never thought I'd be calling him my boy, but I'm going to call him my boy again. It's Mr. Darwin Núñez, right at the top of this. The XG non per 90, 1.07. That's the best in the league over the last 6 as well. He's actually having I think 20 goal involvements this season, I think, overall, which puts him, really high in terms of Europe. You can't argue that he offers something to that team. It's not always great, but it's definitely something, and the goal involvements are increasing, particularly recently. So I'm quite glad to kind of have him in my side at the moment. I think the big one here is Alvarez, and what do people do with him? Because the stats are good, 0.81 over the last 6, 2 goals and assists. It's all right. I mean, you've got him. Is he the easy switch out to Haaland?
No, so I'm looking to keep him and Haaland for game week 25 if I can. But obviously that's, again, very dependent on KDB and what we see of Alvarez moving forward. He's been played to death. That's the only thing. Like, I'm expecting there to be a rest at some point. So they're starting to get players back. And, he does obviously deserve a rest. He's played so many games this season. But I still think, having him with Haaland there and KDB, I think it could be okay in the double game week. Most likely scenario is that if KDB and Haaland are obviously back fit for the double game week, is that he misses one of the games and probably only plays one of the games. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I will say about Nunes, by the way, XGI per 90 has never been Nunes's weak point, has it? That's been his strength since he's entered the league. It's been his conversion rate, which is comfortably one of the lowest on here. That's been the issue. This is peak Nunes. This is what he does, isn't it? He scored 2 goals, and obviously that's lovely. One of them very last minute, I should say. But then look at Newcastle. What did he put up? 2 XG against them, 3 XG, and didn't do anything.
I'm gonna fight you on that one a little bit though. I mean, a conversion. A conversion of 16.7 isn't actually that bad. I think Kane's was like 19% or something when he was.
Is this after the last game? Is it
when he was at Spurs?
So it's kind of boosted up a bit.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying that like the biggest thing that Nunes has always been mocked for is conversion, and it does seem like he has a lot of chances that he misses. But at the same time, if he's starting to score more, I mean, if he's getting 5 chances a game and he's scoring one of them, then his conversion rate is going to be 20%, obviously, and. I think other players seem to have that over a longer period, whereas it all seems to happen to Nunes in like a 10-minute spell where he gets like 5 chances at once and misses 4 of them and then scores one. Then everyone remembers the 4. I mean, the accuracy is high as well for Nunes. I mean, 50% accuracy is among the best on it.
I said it on here, I think it was last year, saying that you're terrified when you don't own him and you're terrified when you own him.
Absolutely.
And he is literally like that as a player. But it's got, the other thing with it, he's got every single aspect you want in a striker. It's just his finishing ability, which is like, obviously there's so many players like that in the league at the moment, and Nunes is kind of their poster boy. The massive difference with him at the moment with Salah out is the fact he could be on penalties as well. That's absolutely massive for a player like Darwin Núñez because, they do get penalties, and obviously Salah scored penalties this year, and he does very well from them, and it always helps stat pad his scores. And if Nunes is also on penalties, so he could have another poor game of finishing, but then just scores a pen, it's happy days, I think. So I think I do agree with what Alex has said in the chat, and I'll just bring it up. A change of narrative after one game week. When you're saying there about his stats, I do think obviously it's not like he's now scoring 1 in 5. It's like he's blanking in 4 and then obviously scoring 2 goals. So I've always liked him as a player in terms of how exciting he could be as an asset. His underlying stats have always been there, but he's still a worry for me. You've got to get rid of some reliable assets like Watkins, Haaland, who's going to come back in at some point, and Solanke. It's tough to go for him from one of them, I think.
I would expect Nunes' accuracy and conversion to be lower than it is on this chart, though. I mean, Saka, for example, I don't think it's on here, but I was looking at it earlier. Saka's conversion since game week 16 is 4%.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous. I mean, obviously Nunes is a striker and it's a bit different, but that's one of the main reasons why Saka hasn't been delivering points, because he's still getting the chance. His underlying stats are still really good, but yeah, this conversion hasn't been there. I don't know. I like Nunes, and I think he's sort of 10% owned, and a lot of people are scared of him. But he's had 3 games now in a row where he's returned something, and he's not as big a problem now as he is. You mentioned the penalties. I mean, McAllister, who Rob Jones has just mentioned, I mean, he is one of the best penalty takers I've seen. I mean, I'm biased because I've seen him take penalties at Brighton.
Yeah.
But we had a real problem in that area. We just couldn't find a player that could reliably convert them. And McAllister had a weird pre-season where he must have just practiced them like the entire summer, because then he took the first one of that season and was like, what the hell's McAllister taking this? Normally it's gross. And then he was great at him. I think Nunes has got a 100% record, though, in competitive games.
Yeah. Well. And I should say as well, shout out to Flapjack, who captained him this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flappy J. Baller move. That was great. Yeah, Flappy J.
I noticed that's caught on a bit.
Oh, it has. Oh, yeah. I'll be calling him it now until the end of time.
Love that. I think that's about it I wanted to look at. I mean, the only other player, maybe just to quickly touch on, is Isak, who's in 5th. I mean, his underlying stats are good. I mean, look at his big chances per 90 of 1.87. That's the highest of all the strikers on this list.
you say that, you've also missed the player that's third, Chris Wood, 4.9 million.
I know.
Absolutely, he's been
Praz's
cleaning up
hero
the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah. So I mean, those are both players. I think it's tough to go for any of those players without. Again, and I know it sounds so boring, but with the double game week and that coming up, it's hard to invest in players like Wood and Isak. But Isak, Callum Wilson's been linked with a lot of moves away as well. So that's obviously one to keep an eye on. Arsenal, I think, was the last one I'd seen linked, which would be very interesting for Wilson. But yeah, I like Isak as a pick. It would be interesting moving forward. And the fixtures are nice. But I think with the double game week coming up and us potentially getting players like Darwin and Haaland in, I don't see any room to get an Isak in using a transfer to do it, personally.
This is with Isak, because it was a bit like when we had like Aguero and Jesus, or there's been similar players. It's always been kind of talked about, if Wilson gets injured, you get Isak. If Isak gets injured, you get Wilson. That was kind of what we were looking at kind of last season. And now Wilson's injured and no one's really looking at Isak.
Yeah.
But he's had 3 goals in the last 3 games. And like you mentioned earlier, Luton at home, Nottingham Forest away, then Bournemouth at home, 23-25. And an amazing run of him. I had to actually delete something from the FPL pod on Monday because we were talking about Chris Wood, and I said, Praz has got Wood. And then I was like, nah, can we delete that?
Oh, bless him.
No one's doing that.
He's probably getting tired. He's had Wood for quite a while.
He has had Wood for a while. Yeah, sad Wood when he benched him as well.
Oh,
I know.
Floppy Wood. Flappy J. Flappy J.
Flappy Wood. Love it. Let's take a look at some fixtures then for the game week. I have got a garden centre game for this one. See if you can guess what it is as we go through. Or you can guess now if you want.
Palace, Sheffield United.
That's not on TV, I don't think. So I couldn't.
Oh, sorry.
I
don't know which ones are on TV. It's not Wolves United, is it?
It's not Wolves United. No, it's the game just before that. West Ham, Bournemouth. Does anyone really care about that game? There it is. There's your. Oh, that's not very big. Hang on. There you go.
There we go.
Because I've had an IPA. Yeah, I think that's the garden centre game of this week. But I mean, I guess people have got Bowen, haven't they? And they've got Solanke, so there might be a bit of interest in it. But I have neither, so I will not be watching that game on Thursday. Let's start at the top then. Forest, Arsenal. We've all gone for an Arsenal win here. We've all gone for you haven't. Me and Mark have both on quite convincing Arsenal wins. Mark, as the Forest fan, obviously a bit pessimistic ahead of this one. Yeah. You've gone for a 2-1. Thoughts on? I mean, Gabriel, we're all predicting them to concede. Saka not really be considered for captain, but we've all got all got him, and we've all got a defender, so not really much to say, is there?
No, exactly. I think it will be. I don't think it will be as easy and plain sailing as we think it will for Arsenal. I think 2-1 win. I think they'll take that and run away, to be perfectly honest. I don't see them scoring an awful lot of goals against them. So yeah, 2-1.
Fulham Everton. Oh God, I mean, if there's ever a game which has no FPL like magnitude at all as this one, and we've all gone for different results. Hard one to predict this. Yeah. I've gone for an Everton win. You've gone for a draw. Mark's gone for a Fulham win. Yeah,
it could go any way, couldn't it? It just depends which team turns up and wants to win it, to be perfectly honest.
I don't think anyone really cares, do they? In the nicest way. I mean, purely from an FPL, I'm sure there's Everton and Fulham fans listening to this that care, but sadly, we do not. Luton Brighton, obviously everyone cares about this game. Yeah, this is the big one. Yeah. I can't believe your prediction for this.
Why?
A hat-trick of 0-0s?
Yeah, of course. I think you're going to go there, you're going to hate it, and you're not going to be able to score, and they're going to love the fact you're not going to be able to score. So we're going to go 0-0. I mean, if we're basing it just on form, then it's 100% going to be 0-0.
I think this is a really tough game for us. I think Mark's gone for a 3-1, which I think is very optimistic. We gave him a bit of a pasting in the first game of the season, but they're a different team at home, and we've got key people out, and we are struggling to score goals because we haven't got any wingers, as De Zerbi kind of said. Ferguson's out of form. We're playing Welbeck. We're playing João Pedro out of position. We're having to play 3 at the back as well. I don't know. It's not going to be easy, but I have backed us for a win. João Pedro was unlucky, I think, against Wolves. He had a couple of decent chances. But we also rode our luck. I thought Neto was brilliant, absolutely brilliant in that game. And Kuna as well. They're a great duo. Palace, Sheffield United, again, we don't really have a lot of interest in this. I think Palace have just been really poor, so I've given Sheffield United a point. You've both gone for a 1-0 to Palace. Big game.
The only thing I will say about that one, by the way, the Palace one, Eze was on my shortlist for who to bring in this week. And I'm just looking and thinking, we've all gone for 1 goal for Palace. And I'm just thinking the upside for Eze. Obviously, he's on pens, but it's not really there.
It's very hard to go for a player, no matter how good they are, when they're playing for a team that are struggling in the way that they are. So, I think he'd be way down on my list. Exciting game at 8:15 though. Villa Newcastle. If you remember the first game of the season, it was a massive Newcastle win. 5-1 was it in that match? But Villa, different team at home. I've gone for 2-1. You've gone for 2-1. Mark's gone for it says on the fence draw, but goals. 2. We're all expecting goals.
Yeah, nice.
City Burnley. What is there to say? Burnley haven't got a chance, have they?
No, I don't think so. And obviously, this was first game of the season, wasn't it? Where what was it 3-0? 4-0. We were at Fest, weren't we?
Yep.
And obviously,
Haaland. It was 2. It was 2, wasn't it? Wasn't it just Haaland 2?
Was it 2?
I think it was Haaland 2.
Rodri scored. No, Rodri scored.
No, it was 3.
It must have been 3, yeah. So, yeah, I see this being quite high scoring, and this is the game. And this is where I'm thinking, getting another City asset this week might be the way to go. Do I get in Jota or do I get in another City mid? It could be the way to go.
Yep. Spurs, Brentford, you and I went for the same result here, 3-1. Mark with a 2-0. I've got a bit of a hopeful Spurs clean sheet, I think. I think Brentford will get a goal. But if they've got Maddison back, that's massive for them. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I see goals in this game. Brentford haven't impressed me all season, to be honest. I mean, just our luck, Tony will score, but they haven't impressed me. So I think Spurs are going to get a few goals here.
I think Richarlison's a captain's option this week, if you've got him, potentially.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I mean, if Haaland's not fit, for example, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, you've got Foden, you've got Haaland, and then you're looking at other teams and thinking, I don't really trust anyone.
Yeah, I'm on Alvarez at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably keep on Alvarez if I had him. But yeah, mine's on Foden at the moment, but that could all change. Liverpool, Chelsea, I've gone for 2-1. Oof. You've gone for 3-1 Liverpool. Mark's gone for an easy Liverpool win, 3-0. Again, we're all back in goals. So a Jota or a Darwin captain in this wouldn't be completely out of the picture. I mean, you've gone for as many goals for Liverpool in this as you've gone for City, for example. Oh, no, you haven't. You've gone for
I went 4.
You went 3. Well, Mark has.
But it's to be fair, it just seems like one of those games where Chelsea, you remember that Chelsea are kind of a work in progress, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think 3-1. I do fancy Chelsea to score, but I would be putting an awful lot of money on Liverpool to win the game.
Yep. Then it's West Ham Bournemouth. I've gone for 2-1 Bournemouth. You and Mark have both gone for 2-1 West Ham. Interestingly enough, Phillips signing for West Ham.
Yeah, I think that could be quite good.
Good
to be perfectly honest. Him and James Ward-Prowse, I think that's quite a good little midfield pair, to be perfectly honest. I think I do back West Ham to win it because they got Bowen back. Is Kudus back for this game as well, we think?
Yeah, he will be.
That's big. So they've actually got their attacking options back. So yeah, I fancy West Ham to win this one.
Will Paqueta be back? Because that's a big one.
I don't think he will, but that would be massive for them as well. Yeah.
See, although I've garden centered this game, I am worried about not having Bowen or Solanke in this because I think either one of those, I don't fully trust West Ham or Bournemouth defence, and one of those two could do quite well, and I haven't got either. So yeah, a little bit of a concern. And then finally, it's Wolves versus Man U. I think your Man United bias is shining through on this one. A 2-1 you've gone for Man U. Mark and I both gone for the reverse, a 2-1 for Wolves.
Yeah. No, easy 2-1. I could have gone 4-1 to be honest. We'll thrash him. It'd be fine.
Sukhan says, "Is that your dog?" I'm amazed that anyone managed to see him. No, that's my girlfriend's dog, Ralph. He's pottering around while my missus is having a bath. Right, predictions league. This is the top 20. Again, I mentioned at the start, if you're interested in getting involved in this, you just need to sign up to the Godfather tier membership on the channel. We'll get you into the Godfather tier prediction league, get you into the FPL leagues as well. You can join the Discord channel too. If a space opens up in the WhatsApp chat, you can join that. And you get things like the screens being sent to you early and some other perks as well. And don't worry, Andy isn't involved in that, so you haven't got to talk to him. That's all.
Cheers.
Would you be a perk, Andy, if we got you more involved? Could I say that you're a perk?
No, I don't think so. I think the chat will confirm that in a minute as well.
Are you not interested in some kind of OnlyFans type content that we could?
Oh, I mean, we could do that.
Well, now you're talking.
I could send him some pictures of my hairy feet.
Oh God! We'll get into FPL mode the right way with FPL mode. Yeah, love that. In addition, the prediction league is obviously it's a thing that Mark and I have done for years. But obviously we've got more people involved in that now. I'm in 9th, which I'm actually quite happy with overall after 170 games that I've predicted.
Someone had a hell of a week last week.
I know.
FPL.
Tricky FPL absolutely shot up the table. Look at that, 35 points. You get 3 for a correct score, 1 for a correct result, and you got 35 points. So that is absolutely massive. Is that even possible? How can you get 35 points? There's 10 games, and you got 3 points for each. Surely that's 30.
I don't know, mate.
Don't even know my own game. I have to check that. I think Tricky is actually involved in the making of this spreadsheet, so I think we might need to.
Do you not get more points if you get it bang on?
Well, that's the correct score. So you get 3 for the correct, the 1 all or whatever, and then 1. So I don't really know how you can get 35. Definitely gonna have to check that. Anyway, do get involved in this really clearly well organised competition that isn't at all skewed in favour of Tricky FPL. Let's take a look at some captains just before we look at our teams. I think it is a very interesting week. I mean, these are the players that Mark and I kind of highlighted. Nunes, Haaland, obviously, Richarlison, who we mentioned, Saka, Forrester. I'd be just like Saka, wouldn't it, to go off and get an 18-pointer after the week that we all captain him. He does nothing. You mentioned Alvarez, Watkins at home to Newcastle, one of the worst defences. Jota, Pedro against Luton, Bowen, Foden, or even Eze against Sheffield United. You could captain any of those, couldn't you? And you wouldn't look completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be quite nice for EO this week. I'm really hoping that we have a week where actually everybody's under 100% because there's so many good captaincy options. And obviously we don't have the big boys like, for instance, Haaland. So I do think this could be quite wide open. I think you can go for anybody you really fancy.
I'm so confused now, says that Tricky actually moved up 35 places. Oh, last week he was 35th. He's gone up 28 places. There you go. So it has actually got last week's points. Fine, bored. Don't worry about it at all. Let's say Haaland plays 30 minutes against Spurs in the Cup. Do you bring him in and captain him?
No.
So what does he need?
I don't think so.
Would you bring him in?
No, I don't think I do. No,
Ooh,
personally.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's very different to what Sam said on the Q&A earlier. Sam said that if he's in the squad, she'll be bringing him in and captain him, even if he didn't come on.
Really?
I was surprised at that.
That's risky. Unless we hear something that says he's ready to start and I'm happy to start him.
We're not going to get that.
Exactly. So
no way.
I think that's risky personally. I don't know. To be honest, I hadn't actually thought about it too much. When you just said it then, I was like, oh God. But I don't know. I don't think I would. I don't think I can do it without a hit either because I'd have to get rid of Salah. So it would be for a hit. And I don't think I'd do it for a hit.
I mean, we talk about risky business. It's got to be risky to bring in a player who's been out for 6 weeks. Is it about that with this kind of injury that just seems to keep having complications to rip your team apart to bring him in and captain when we've got so many good options in the rest of the side.
Yeah.
And you've got Alvarez as well. I mean, imagine if you took a hit, bought in Haaland, took the captaincy of Alvarez, and then Alvarez starts up top against Burnley. Oof.
On pens,
yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't really like that. We've talked about kind of, the fact it's been quite nice to have to think about it. I mean, it is interesting when you look at the captain matrix over the next 5 weeks. I mean, let's say Haaland is fit, and we do get that confirmation from Pep, which we're not going to get. But let's say he is. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously going to be the most captain player in 22. And then going forward, it's really hard to look against him. Brentford in 23, Everton in 24, the double game week in 25, and then Bournemouth in 26. So I think when Haaland's back, he's just going to slot straight back into being that perma captain. And we've got FPL Chai in the chat who asks who you're thinking for captain. FPL Chai is fourth in the world, hasn't owned Haaland all season. So clearly like different ways to play the game. But yeah, I think unfortunately it's going to be Haaland most weeks. I won't be capturing him this week. I'm on your side. It's weird. We're agreeing quite a lot, which is worrying for.
I don't like it.
I know, worrying for one of us. Probably you.
Yeah.
I think God. my captain will either be Richarlison if I bring him in. I'm tempted to go for Maddison though, just because he's got the slightly more longer term appeal. In that I know he's always going to be in that side. If Maddison starts against City, it'll be Maddison that comes in.
I think you're crazy.
Yeah, well,
crazy.
I've got to get points on the board. I can't be worrying too much about 29.
Just Just get a Spurs player with Son in their name, you'll be fine.
Yeah, boys. Yeah, I mean that seems to work quite well.
Yeah, exactly.
That is weird, isn't it? They've got 3 players with Son in their name.
Yes, they do.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. Or Foden. I think Foden's a good pick against Burnley. I'd be very surprised if Foden came away from that game with no attacking returns.
Yeah, I don't think. I think Richarlison and Alvarez are top 2 for me, and then Foden maybe a third.
Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't even have Alvarez on the list. Sorry about that. On my secondary candidates, but yeah, he's a good pick. So this is my team. This is how I'm lined up. I mean, thankfully the -8 really has kind of sorted me out. Without that, I'd be really struggling. So Martinez in goal. Trent or Gabriel, depending on who's fit. We think Gabriel's going to be fine, don't we? He went off with a minor kind of knock. I'm sure he'll be all right. Trent will start if he's back. Porro and Estupinan. I've got Garnacho starting at the moment. Palmer, Saka, Foden, Pedro, Watkins, Darwin. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that team in general, but I could lose Son, like I said, to one of Richarlison, Maddison, or who's the other one I said? Was it just those two?
Yeah, I think so.
Son to Richarlison or Maddison.
Jota.
Or Jota potentially. Or I've got the money to do Watkins or Darwin up to Haaland. If we get, you've got to have some kind of plan for it. If we get confirmation from Pep that Haaland's completely over his injury and he's going to start against Burnley, you have to bring him in and captain him, probably. Yeah. So
but like you said, I don't think we're going to get that.
We're not going to get that, so I'm probably not going to worry about it. So it's probably going to be the Son to a Spurs midfielder move. Looking at your team.
Yes. So I got Areola in goal. I got Saliba, Estupinan and Pedro Porro. Then I got Richarlison, Saka, Foden, Palmer. Love that midfield. And then Solanke, Watkins and Alvarez captain at the moment with Taylor, Mitchell and Salah on the bench. Mitchell on the bench, not too bad. Sheffield United at home. I think that's quite a good little bench player to have. But yeah, it'd be either rolling or Salah out. And I think, to be honest, keeping Salah seems a bit silly in terms of his value is going to go down and I could get another player in. But I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, who do I bench?
Well, that's what I was about to say. This is the issue I'm seeing with quite a few teams.
Yeah. So if I get rid of Salah, who do I bench out of that team? I've already got Mitchell on my bench, who's, like I said, a good bench player to have. And I'm just looking and thinking rolling could be a good move in terms of having that extra bit of information for the next week. And I'm already saying that I maybe thinking about those Liverpool players in the double game week and kind of waiting to the last minute. So, yeah, I'm kind of caught in two minds. I think I probably will still sell Salah. But like I said, it's who I bench. Solanke's kind of screaming out to me that he's the player I should bench away to West Ham. We've already said all of us are predicting either 0 goals or only 1 goal for Bournemouth anyway. So it's potentially benching him. If I did bench him, I think I'd probably put him second on my bench after Mitchell. Yeah. But then it's who I bring in for Salah. So it's, do I bring in a Jota or do I bring in somebody else? So it's, that's kind of my moves at the moment. I just don't feel that enamoured about doing Salah to Jota and playing Jota this week. I'm not sure. So, yeah, I'm kind of a bit all over the place. But we've got long enough to wait. We've got till next Tuesday. So, yeah, see if anything pops up.
I think you roll. With that. Because especially because you're considering the free hit in 25 anyway. Like if you buy Jota, you're pretty much just not going to go with that strategy, right? Because you'd already have one in place and two City.
And I feel like I need transfers because I've got 2 Spurs and I've got Chelsea, and then if I bring in Jota and if I bring in Jota, I'm already looking at blank game week 26 and thinking, I'm going to be a little bit scuppered there. So if I kind of save my transfers and then in a blank game week, I don't know. I think rolling. It was either rolling or getting rid of Salah that I was thinking when I was in the car today, and I think that's the way I'll go. One of those.
Yep. Looking at Mark's team, so Mark's got Dubravka in goal with Gabriel, Porro, and Doty, Bailey, Palmer, Saka, Foden, Darwin, Watkins and Solanke. Like I said, it's a bit of a mashup of both our teams.
That is an overperforming team, that is, isn't it?
Clearly.
He'll
claim it's skill, but we know the reality. I think he's doing Salah to Jota. I mean, he loves Jota, so that doesn't surprise me massively. It'll be quite heavy on the Liverpool, with Jota and Darwin. Probably won't be able to get Trent as well, I wouldn't have thought, although he has got a load of money. I'm guessing he'd bench Bailey. Salah to Jota and bench Bailey.
Or Solanke again, if he thinks Bailey's going to play. Yeah.
I don't know. Again, though, I think I think a lot of people who have decided to keep Salah, decided to keep him because they felt their 11 was strong enough to put a bench him. And now suddenly you're selling him. It's like, well, who do I now replace out of that strong 11? So
not Palmer.
Not
Do
Palmer.
not bench Palmer.
No. I'm glad you're not not going for that.
Yeah.
I'm going for that again. Let's take a look at the Black Box leagues. So shout out to Kevin Prendergast, who is top of the league, 1,382 points. My God, that's 220-ish points ahead of me, which is obviously the benchmark for your success in a season. Anders Axner in second, John O'Shea in third, BV in fourth, Mark Ugia in fifth, Josh Hinchcliffe in sixth, joint sixth with Rasmus, Bag Milan, Razafki in eighth, Chandru in ninth, and Nicholas Reginson in 10th. Congratulations, all having absolutely superb seasons. In the Apprentice League, I am slowly catching up to Liesel. I'm now sort of 8 points behind her. Trying to catch up to Ryan, who's thrashing me. It was really close between us like 10 weeks ago. Now he's 60 points clear. And Mark's just, he's 110 points ahead of me. Oh, it's absolutely horrible. Shout out to our Godfather Tier League members as well. Richard Smith having an amazing season, right out in first with 1,350 points. Shout out to Nick Baker, Connor Gray, Avi Fruchter, Pratik, Chris Tange, Mr. Mark Southerns in 7th, Tom Gould in 8th, Nathan Jobling in 9th, and Richard James Neal also in joint 9th. Andy, we've done just over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the scout car these days, about an hour and a half?
No, about an hour and 10 if we can.
Hour and 10, okay. You've got that kind of quite streamlined now.
Yeah, I get bored of listening to 7 Flappy J, so I try and wrap it up as soon as I can.
But here, I mean, obviously, you could just do hours on Black Box.
Oh yeah, here. I just had to move myself a bit because I was going a bit numb.
Yeah, my arse is absolutely. I'm like, oh, no, it's been great. It's been great to do a stream with you again, and hopefully, I think Mark's out this week, but hopefully, you and him are getting back to the late tackle next week.
Yes,
next week. Although it's a funny
week,
funny week again next week, isn't it? Maybe we do, maybe, I'm not sure what we're doing for Black Box next week, because obviously there's games. Maybe the three of us get together on, maybe even, I can't do Friday night, maybe Thursday, I don't know. I don't know what's happening next week.
We'll have a chat.
We'll have a chat. Won't commit to anything now. But thanks for joining. If anyone is watching this and hasn't subscribed to the channel, please do so as we push on towards 40k subscribers. Do make sure you like the video as well, and drop us a comment as well. Not only does it help the algorithm, but we like to read your comments and we will respond to as many as we can. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, do give us a 5-star review, no lower than that please, and do give us a review on the podcast too. Andy, great to speak to you, and we will be back at some point very soon.
Yeah. Cheers.
See you later. I've lost the button. It's there. Do you know what? Just before I do that, I've got a bloody Stream Deck ready to go. Haven't set it up yet. So this is the last stream where I have to find the button for the credits. But it's about to roll now. See you later on.